My dress still smelled of the hot iron when he snatched the microphone like he was accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award. He looked straight at me and announced I was too pathetic to be his wife. The room went silent. I did not cry or run away. I simply nodded. Then I opened the thick envelope in my hand and delivered the one sentence that drained every drop of blood from his face. My name is Isla Harris, and I was exactly 7 minutes late to my own rehearsal dinner. I checked the time on my phone as I pushed through the heavy oak doors of the Hawthorne loft. 7 minutes past 7 in the evening. I was not late because I was having second thoughts. I was not late because I was fixing my makeup. I was late because a client for Larkspur Events had a crisis with a collapsed floral arch across town in Asheville, and I had to authorize an emergency vendor swap while driving. That is who I am. I handle logistics. I fix broken things. I pay the bills so the show can go on. The air inside the private dining room smelled of roasted rosemary chicken and expensive cologne. I expected the hum of conversation. I expected the clinking of champagne flutes. I expected my fiancé to look relieved that I had finally arrived. Instead, I walked into a silence so thick it felt like physical pressure against my chest. Ethan Vaughn stood at the head of the room. He held a microphone in his hand. He was wearing the charcoal suit I had paid for 3 weeks ago. He looked polished. He looked confident. He looked like the man I thought I was going to marry in 48 hours. He saw me enter. He did not smile. "There she is," Ethan said into the microphone. His voice echoed slightly off the exposed brick walls. "The busy bee, always working, always grinding." A few of his friends from the Vaughn Growth studio table chuckled. It was a dark, wet sound. They were lounging in their chairs with the arrogance of men who had never had to worry about a credit card limit in their lives. I froze near the entrance. My mother was sitting at the front table to the left. She turned to look at me. Her face was pale. Her eyes were wide, signaling a warning I could not yet decipher. My best friend, Jules, was sitting next to her. Jules looked ready to vomit. "I was just telling everyone, Isla," Ethan continued. Stepping out from behind the podium, he owned the space. He loved an audience. I was giving an honest pre-marriage speech about us, about the reality of us. I took a step forward. "Ethan, what is this?" He held up a hand. "Profound honesty. Babe, that is what we need." He turned back to the room, sweeping his gaze over my family, his family, and our mutual friends. "I have been thinking a lot lately, about partnership, about value." My stomach turned over, not from fear, but from a sudden, sharp instinct. The same instinct that told me a vendor was about to flake, or a venue was lying about their capacity. Something was wrong. "Isla is a great worker," Ethan announced. "She works so hard, she stresses so much, but honestly, it is exhausting." He looked straight at me. The room seemed to tilt. "You are just so pathetic." The word hit me like a slap. Pathetic. He said it with a casual cruelty, as if he were commenting on the weather. "I mean, look at you," he said, gesturing to my slightly disheveled hair from the wind outside. "You are always running around, trying to please everyone, trying to control everything. It is desperate, and I realized something today. I cannot marry desperate." The silence in the room shattered. My mother stood up so fast her chair screeched against the hardwood floor. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice trembling with rage. Ethan ignored her. He kept his eyes on me. He was enjoying this. I could see the glint in his eyes. This was not a breakup. This was a performance. This was a content strategy. "I am doing this now to save us both the embarrassment of a divorce in 6 months," Ethan said, his voice dropping to that smooth, fake empathetic tone he used when he was trying to sell a consulting package to a failing startup. "I need a partner who inspires me. Isla, not a manager, not a mother. You are just too small for the life I am building. So, I am calling it off. Right here, right now. You are free." His friends at the back table laughed again. One of them, a guy named Marcus, who owed me $200 for a bar tab I covered last month, raised his glass in a mock toast. I looked at my family. My dad was gripping his steak knife so hard his knuckles were white. Jules was already out of her seat, moving toward me, her hand reaching out to grab mine. Her palm was sweating. She was shaking. "Isla, let's go," Jules whispered, tugging at my arm. "We are leaving. Now." But I did not move. I stood perfectly still. The shock washed over me, cold and clarifying. It was like plunging into an ice bath. The heat of embarrassment that should have flushed my cheeks never came. Instead, my mind went blank, then rebooted with terrifying clarity. I looked at Ethan, really looked at him. I saw the suit I bought, the haircut I made the appointment for, the watch on his wrist that was a birthday gift from me last year. I saw the man who had lived in my apartment rent-free for 3 years while he found his footing. I saw the man whose car insurance was deducted from my bank account on the 15th of every month. He called me pathetic. He thought I was the one who needed him. He thought this public humiliation would break me. He thought I would cry. He thought I would run out of the room, mascara running, begging him to reconsider, giving him the ultimate power trip to fuel his ego for the next decade. He was wrong. I gently pulled my arm away from Jules. "It is okay," I said softly. I walked toward the main table. The sound of my heels on the floor was the only noise in the room. Click, click, click. Ethan watched me come. He smirked. He thought I was coming to beg. He lowered the microphone slightly, waiting for the plea. I reached the head table. I did not look at him. I looked at my left hand. The engagement ring was a solitaire diamond, platinum band, classic, tasteful. I remembered the day we picked it out. I remembered Ethan saying his card was having chip issues and asking if I could put it on mine for the points. I remembered paying the bill for it 3 weeks later. I slid the ring off my finger. It felt heavy in my hand for a second, then light. I did not throw it at him. That would be dramatic. That would be emotional. That would be exactly what he wanted. I placed the ring gently on the white tablecloth. It made a soft thud. Then I looked up. I looked him dead in the eyes. "You are canceling the wedding publicly?" I asked. My voice was steady. It did not shake. It projected clearly to the back of the room. Ethan blinked. He seemed disappointed by my lack of tears. "I am doing what is best for—" "No," I interrupted. "You want public. That is great, because everything needs to be public." I turned my head slightly to the right, toward the shadows near the kitchen entrance. Mr. Henderson, the venue manager, a tall man in his 50s with a gray beard, stepped out from the alcove. He looked uncomfortable, but he held a thick manila envelope in his hands. He and I had gone over the timeline for tonight 3 times. He respected me. He knew who signed the checks. Ethan frowned. "Who is that?" "What are you doing?" "Mr. Henderson," I said, my voice cutting through the tension like a laser. "Could you please bring the file, Mr. Henderson walked over and handed me the envelope. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me. My heart was beating a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. 1, 2, 3. I opened the envelope. I pulled out a stack of papers. They were stapled neatly. The blue ink of the signatures was crisp. "Ethan," I said, holding up the documents, "do you know what this is?" He scoffed. He brought the microphone back to his lips. "Is this a bill? Are you trying to bill me for breaking up with you, God? You really are all about the money, aren't you? It is sad. Isla." "This," I said, ignoring his jab, "is the contract for this venue, and the catering, and the photographer, and the band." I flipped the page. "And do you know whose name is on the financially responsible party line for every single one of them?" I turned the document so he could see. I pointed to the signature at the bottom. "Me," I said. "Not us. Me." Ethan rolled his eyes. "So what? You want a refund? Take it up with them." "Oh, I already have," I said. "You see, when you hold the contract, you hold the control. Mr. Henderson and I had a lovely chat while you were up here performing your little monologue." I dropped the papers onto the table next to the ring. "But that is just the wedding," I continued. taking a step closer to him, the smell of his cologne Santal 33. Another bottle I bought was nauseating. Let us talk about the rest of your life. I pulled my phone from my clutch. You called me pathetic because I work too much, I said. You said I am just a manager, that I am boring, that I am an ATM with emotions. I did not say ATM, he muttered. Stepping back, he was losing the room. He could feel it. The silence had shifted. It was no longer stunned. It was curious. You did not have to say it, I said. You lived it. I tapped my screen. I had prepared for this. Not because I knew he would dump me tonight, but because I'm good at my job. I prepare for disasters. I prepare for worst-case scenarios. And somewhere, deep down, I must have known that Ethan Vaughn was a disaster waiting to happen. I had connected my phone to the venue's AV system earlier that afternoon to test a slideshow for the rehearsal. The connection was still active. Turn on the main screen, please, I said to the tech booth in the back. The large projection screen behind Ethan, which was supposed to show a montage of our happiest moments set to acoustic guitar music, flickered to life, but it did not show photos of us kissing in Paris. It showed a live mirror of my banking app. Gasps rippled through the room. What the hell is that? Ethan snapped, turning around to look at the screen. Turn that off. That is private. It is not private, I said, cold as ice. It is my account. My name is on it. Just like my name is on the lease of the apartment you are sleeping in. Just like my name is on the title of the Range Rover you drove here tonight. On the screen, the interface for a major credit card flashed in high definition. The balance was high. The available credit was massive. It was the card Ethan carried in his wallet. The card he used for his business lunches. The card he used to buy the round of drinks he was undoubtedly planning to order for his friends once I left. You said you wanted to be free, I said. You said you wanted to break free from my pathetic, controlling grasp. My thumb hovered over the red button on the app. So, I am granting your wish. Isla, stop, Ethan said. His voice cracked. The smooth, confident baritone was gone. Do not do this here. We can talk about the finances later. No, I said. We are doing it publicly. Remember honesty. I pressed the button. The screen refreshed. A large red banner appeared across the projection. Authorized user removed. Ethan Vaughn. Status card canceled. Reason reported lost, stolen. The room was deadly silent. Ethan stared at the screen. His face drained of all color. He looked like a ghost. You just cut your life support, I whispered, loud enough for the microphone to pick it up. You are crazy, he hissed, lunging toward me but stopping short when he saw Mr. Henderson step forward again. You cannot just cut me off. I have expenses. I have the studio rent due tomorrow. Vaughn Growth Studio, I asked. The one that operates out of a co-working space that bills to, that card. I pointed to the screen. Isla, you are being irrational, he pleaded, switching tactics instantly. He tried to smile, but it looked like a grimace. Baby, look, I was just stressed. The wedding stress. You know how it gets. I did not mean. It is done, I said. The card is dead. The authorized user access is revoked. I looked at the crowd. Enjoy the dinner, I said to the guests. I paid for it, after all. But I would suggest the groom starts a GoFundMe if he plans to order dessert. I turned to walk away. Wait. Ethan shouted. He pulled out his phone. He was panicking. I could see his thumbs flying across the screen. I knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to move money. He was trying to transfer cash from the joint checking account, the one I put 90% of the funds into before I could freeze that too. I stopped and looked back at him. He was staring at his phone screen with a look of absolute horror. A notification sound pinged through the room. It came from the speakers connected to my phone, but the reaction was on his face. On the big screen behind him, a new notification popped up from the banking app. Transaction declined. Amount $5,000. Reason account. Frozen by primary holder. Ethan looked up at me. His hands were shaking. The microphone slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a deafening screech of feedback. I smiled. It was the only genuine smile I had felt all evening. "Too slow," I said. I turned my back on him and walked toward the door. I did not run. I did not look back. I could hear the murmurs exploding behind me, the sound of his friends asking what was happening, the sound of my mother laughing a sharp, vindictive bark of a laugh. I pushed open the heavy oak doors and stepped out into the cool Asheville night air. I was single. I was alone. But for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't carrying dead weight. I walked to my car, pulled out my phone, and dialed the number for the bank's fraud department. The operator answered on the first ring. "Hello?" I said, my voice calm, professional, and terrifyingly composed. "My name is Isla Harris. I need to report a theft. Yes, I know who the suspect is. He's currently standing at the altar of the Hawthorne Loft, and I believe he is about to realize he does not have a ride home." The silence inside my car was heavy, a stark contrast to the chaos I had just left behind at the Hawthorne Loft. As I drove down the winding roads of Asheville, putting distance between myself and the wreckage of my engagement, my mind did not go to the future. It did not go to the legal battle I knew was coming, or the awkward phone calls I would have to make to cancel the florist and the cake decorator tomorrow morning. Instead, my mind traveled backward. It went back to the beginning, searching for the exact moment when the man I loved turned into a parasite wrapped in a designer suit. I needed to understand how a smart, capable woman like me, someone who manages 6-figure budgets and coordinates events for the most demanding clients in North Carolina, had let this happen. I met Ethan 3 years ago at a mixer for creative professionals in the River Arts District. The room was full of graphic designers, architects, and marketing directors holding craft beers and exchanging business cards. I was there representing Larkspur Events, trying to scout new vendors. Ethan was there representing well. Ethan. He was leaning against a high-top table, wearing a velvet blazer that fit him perfectly. He held court with 3 other people, gesturing with a glass of whiskey, as if he were explaining the secrets of the universe. When he saw me, he didn't just smile. He locked in on me. He had this way of looking at you that made everything else in the room blur out of focus. He told me he was a brand architect. He used words like synergy, disruption, and ecosystem. He spoke with the relaxed confidence of a man who had already won the game of life and was just doing a victory lap. That night, he told me he was on the verge of closing a massive deal with a tech startup in Raleigh. He bought me a drink, a top-shelf bourbon, and toasted to us. I was charmed. I was 30 years old, tired of dating men who were intimidated by my career or looking for a mother figure. Ethan seemed like an equal. He seemed like a partner. I did not know then that the bourbon was paid for with a credit card that was 2 days away from being maxed out. The red flags did not wave in my face all at once. They were subtle, like cracks in a windshield that you ignore until the whole thing shatters. It started about 6 months into our relationship. We were at dinner at a French bistro downtown. When the check came, Ethan patted his pockets with a theatrical frown. He laughed, a charming, self-deprecating sound, and said he must have left his wallet in his gym bag. I paid. It was $300. He promised to Venmo me. He never did. Then came the career pivot. Ethan had a job at a mid-sized marketing firm when we met. He hated it. He complained constantly that his bosses were dinosaurs who did not understand his vision. One Tuesday evening, he came to my apartment with a bottle of champagne and announced he had quit. He was finally going to launch his own consultancy, Vaughn Growth Studio. "It is time to bet on myself. Isla," he said, his eyes shining. "I have clients lined up. I just need the freedom to execute." I was happy for him. I believed in betting on oneself. I had built my career at Larkspur from the ground up. I knew how hard it was. So, when he asked if we could move in together to consolidate expenses while he got the studio off the ground, I agreed. It made sense logically. I had a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment near the Grove Park Inn. He had a lease ending on a bachelor pad he claimed was too noisy for deep work. That was the beginning of the slide. Vaughn Growth Studio was less of a business and more of a lifestyle brand. Ethan rented a desk at a high-end co-working space because he said he needed the right energy to attract high-value clients. The membership cost $400 a month. He put it on my card because his business account was still being set up. I would leave the apartment at 7 in the morning, already fielding emails from frantic brides and corporate liaisons. Ethan would still be asleep. When I came home at 7 in the evening, exhausted and smelling of stale coffee and adrenaline, he would be on the couch, laptop open, watching YouTube videos about cryptocurrency or alpha male mindsets. If I asked how work was, he would sigh dramatically. I am in the ideation phase. Isla, you cannot rush genius. I made some incredible connections on the golf course today. Ah, yes, the golf. Ethan claimed that business in the South happened on the fairway, so he needed a membership at the country club. The initiation fee was $5,000. The monthly dues were $600. It is an investment, he told me, looking hurt when I hesitated. Do you not believe in me? One contract. Isla, one contract covers all of this and more. I am doing this for us, for our future. So I paid. I paid the rent. I paid the utilities. I paid for the high-protein groceries he insisted on for his gym gains. I paid for the gym membership itself, a luxury club with a eucalyptus steam room, not the Planet Fitness down the road. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself that marriage is a partnership, and sometimes one person carries the load while the other builds. I was the sturdy one. I was the provider. It made me feel capable. It made me feel needed. But the dynamic shifted. The more I gave, the less he respected what I did to earn the money he spent. One night, about a year ago, I came home after a brutal 14-hour day. I had been managing a charity gala where the keynote speaker had missed his flight. The tent company had set up on the wrong lawn, and a thunderstorm had threatened to ruin the silent auction. I had fixed it all. I had saved the event. I was proud, but I was drained. Ethan was in the kitchen, making an espresso with the machine I had bought for his birthday. He was wearing noise-canceling headphones. I am so tired, I said, dropping my bag on the counter. I just saved a $50,000 fundraiser from total disaster. Ethan took off his headphones and looked at me with a pitying smile. Babe, you look stressed. You really need to work on your cortisol levels. I am stressed because I worked, I snapped. Yeah, but is it really work? He asked. I mean, you plan parties. It is balloons and napkins, right? It is decoration. It is not like you are building equity or scaling a venture. I stared at him. My decoration pays for the roof over your head. Ethan, he laughed, waving his hand dismissively. You are so transactional. This is why you will always be an employee. Isla, you think in paychecks. I think in net worth. He said this while drinking coffee beans I bought, in an apartment I leased, wearing sweatpants I had ordered for him online. And then there were his friends. Ethan surrounded himself with a group of men who were exactly like him, all flash, no cash, and an abundance of unearned confidence. There was Marcus, who called himself a crypto evangelist, and Julian, who was between startups. They loved going out to dinner. They loved ordering the tomahawk steaks and the bottles of Cabernet that cost $200. They loved the performance of wealth. But when the check came, a strange phenomenon would occur. They would all suddenly become fascinated by the ceiling, or their phones, or a sudden urgent need to use the restroom. Ethan would look at me. He wouldn't ask. He would just give me a look, a mix of panic and expectation. I have got this one, babe, he would say loudly for the table to hear. Just put it on the card for the points. Yeah, I will transfer you my share. The friends would cheer. Ethan is the man. Thanks, brother. They never thanked me. Not once. I was the one handing over the plastic. I was the one signing the receipt. But in their eyes, I was just the mechanism. Ethan was the provider. I was the ATM with a pulse. If I ever brought it up later, Ethan would accuse me of embarrassing him. Why do you have to count pennies, Isla? It makes you look cheap. We are building a network. By the time we got engaged, the pattern was set in stone. He proposed with a ring that I later found out cost $8,000. He put it on a credit card he had opened in his own name, one of the few he had left. But 3 months later, he came to me, pale and sweating. He couldn't make the minimum payment. The interest rate was 25%. If he defaulted, his credit score, which he needed for a business loan, would tank. "I messed up," he said, holding my hands, looking at me with those puppy dog eyes. "I just wanted to get you the ring you deserved. I overextended because I love you so much." I paid off the ring. I effectively bought my own engagement ring. And when I wore it, he would grab my hand in front of people and say, "I wanted her to have the best." Planning the wedding was the final descent, I assumed, since he was a visionary and I was a professional event planner, that we would collaborate. I was wrong. Ethan wanted the glory, but he wanted none of the grime. "You are the expert, babe," he said when the vendor contracts started rolling in. "You know what to look for in the fine print. You handle the paperwork, I will handle the vibe." The vibe meant he wanted a live jazz band from New Orleans, not a DJ. It meant he wanted imported peonies, even though they were out of season. It meant he wanted a top-tier videographer who charged $10,000 for a 5-minute highlight reel. Every time a contract needed a signature, he pushed it across the table to me. "You sign it," he would say. "Your handwriting is better. Plus, since you are in the industry, they might give us a discount if they see your name." I signed the venue contract for the Hawthorne Loft. I signed for the catering. I signed for the lighting design. "Are you sure you do not want to be on the liability clause?" I asked him once, holding the pen over the dotted line for the liquor license. No, he said quickly, looking up from his phone. "Keep it clean. Keep it under one entity. It simplifies the tax liability." I signed. I thought I was being efficient. I did not realize I was building my own trap or his escape route. The breaking point, the catalyst that led to tonight, was the rehearsal dinner. Traditionally, the groom's family handles the rehearsal dinner, but Ethan's parents are retired school teachers in Ohio. They are nice people, but they live on a fixed pension. They offered to host a nice backyard barbecue or rent a private room at a local brewery. It would have been lovely. It would have been authentic. Ethan was horrified. "A barbecue," he sneered when we left their house after visiting last month. "Isla, I am launching a new consulting tier next month. I have potential investors coming to the wedding. I cannot have them eating pulled pork on paper plates the night before. It looks low rent." "It is family," I argued. "It is supposed to be intimate." "It is supposed to be a statement," he countered. "We need something high-end. The Hawthorne Loft has that private dining room with the skyline view. We need a plated dinner. We need speeches. We need to show them we have arrived." "We cannot afford another 5-figure event, Ethan," I said. "We are already over budget on the wedding day itself." He turned on me then, his face twisting into a sneer that I should have recognized as the real him. "You mean you do not want to spend the money," he said. "You are so small-minded. Isla, you are always thinking about the cost, never the value. If you cannot support my image, then what are we even doing?" He pushed until I broke. I agreed to book the Hawthorne Loft. I agreed to the 4-course meal. I agreed to let him turn a family dinner into a networking opportunity for his imaginary empire. I paid the deposit. I signed the contract. And that is why, tonight, when he stood up with that microphone, he felt so safe. He thought he had me cornered. He thought that because I had paid for the stage, I was obligated to stand on it and take his abuse. He thought I was so invested in the sunk cost of our relationship that I would swallow my pride to save the wedding. He did not understand that for 3 years, while he was playing pretend CEO, I was the one reading the fine print. He forgot that in my line of work, we always have a contingency plan. He wanted a rehearsal dinner that proved his status. Well, he got one. He just didn't realize that the only thing he would be proving was his own fraudulence. I turned my car onto the highway, heading toward my empty apartment. The notification from my bank popped up on my phone screen again. Transaction declined. I let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 3 years. It wasn't a sigh of sadness. It was the sound of a balance sheet finally zeroing out. The debt was gone. The leech was detached. But I knew Ethan. I knew his pride. I knew that right now. Back at the venue. He wasn't feeling shame. He was feeling victimized. He was spinning a story to his friends about how I was crazy, how I was controlling, how I had ambushed him. He would try to hit back. He would try to hurt me where he thought I was vulnerable, my reputation. Let him try. I reached over to the passenger seat and patted the thick file folder I had brought with me, the one that contained not just the wedding contracts, but 3 years of bank statements, credit card bills, and emails. He thought tonight was the finale. He was wrong. Tonight was just the opening statement. The silence that followed the notification on the screen, "Transaction declined," was not empty. It was heavy, suffocating, and waiting for a verdict. The room did not know how to breathe. They looked from the screen to Ethan, and then to me, waiting to see if this was still part of some twisted performance art, or if the ground had truly fallen out from under us. I did not let the silence linger. I did not give Ethan the seconds he needed to concoct a lie about a banking error or a frozen server. I stepped forward, effectively reclaiming the center of the room without needing a microphone. "The wedding stops here," I said. My voice was not loud, but it carried to the back corners of the private dining room where the waitstaff had frozen with trays of hors d'oeuvres. "And let me be clear," I continued, scanning the faces of my aunts, my cousins, and Ethan's bewildered parents. "This is not happening because I have been dumped. This is not happening because I am a victim of a sudden change of heart. This is happening because I have just been granted a release." Ethan tried to laugh. It was a wet, desperate sound. Okay. Isla made her point," he stammered, looking at his friends for support that was no longer there. "She is upset. She is emotional. We can talk about the logistics later. Babe, let us just enjoy the dinner. Right? Everyone is hungry." He reached for a wine bottle on the table, trying to pour himself a glass to normalize the situation. His hand was shaking so badly the neck of the bottle clattered against the crystal rim. "There is no dinner," I said, "and there are no logistics to discuss later. There is only the reality of right now." I turned back to the table where I had placed the thick manila envelope. I did not look at Ethan. I looked through him. I picked up the stack of contracts I had already begun to expose. "The Hawthorne Loft," I said, lifting the first document. "Contract holder Isla Harris." I dropped it on the floor. It landed with a flat slap. "Lumina Photography," I said, lifting the next one. "Primary signatory and copyright holder Isla Harris." I dropped it. "Velvet Soul Jazz Band." I listed, my rhythm precise, unyielding. "Floral arrangements by the Green Room, vintage car rental, the 3-tier cake from Sugar Spice." I held up the final sheet, the thickest one of all. "The wedding planner services," I said. "Paid in full, by Isla Harris." I let the papers scatter at Ethan's feet like dead leaves. "You do not have a wedding, Ethan," I told him. "You never did. You had a guest pass to my event, and I just revoked it." Ethan's face flushed a deep, blotchy red. "You cannot do that," he hissed, stepping close enough that I could smell the fear radiating off him. "My name is on the invitations. My family flew in from Ohio. You cannot just cancel everything because you are having a tantrum. The contracts are joint property in spirit." "In spirit," I repeated, my tone flat. "Unfortunately for you, the law does not operate on spirit. It operates on ink." I turned my head slightly to the left. "Mr. Henderson." The venue manager stepped forward again. He looked grim but professional. He had seen enough weddings to know when a union was dead on arrival. "Mr. Henderson," I asked, keeping my eyes on Ethan, "if the primary contract holder requests an immediate cancellation of the event and a cessation of all services, what is the protocol?" "We follow the instruction of the signatory." "Mr. Henderson said instantly. His voice was a bass drum of finality. "We shut down the bar. We stop the kitchen. We clear the room. No other party has the authorization to alter that directive." Thank you, I said. I looked at Ethan's friends at the back table. The guys who had laughed when he called me pathetic. They were not laughing now. They were checking their phones, likely looking for Ubers, realizing the open bar was about to dry up. "But we are here," Ethan shouted, throwing his arms out. "The food is cooked. The room is paid for. You are going to waste $5,000 just to spite me." "It is my $5,000 to waste," I replied. "I would rather burn it in the parking lot than watch you eat a steak I paid for while you insult me." I walked past him toward the gift table near the entrance. A small pile of white envelopes and boxed gifts sat there, premature congratulations from guests who wanted to get the obligation out of the way. "What are you doing?" Ethan asked, following me like a shadow. "Those are gifts. For us." "There is no us," I said. I reached for the card box. It was a clear acrylic box with our names etched in gold calligraphy. I had ordered it from Etsy 2 months ago. I picked it up. "Isla, stop," Ethan said, his voice dropping to a low, threatening growl. "You are embarrassing yourself. You are acting like a child taking her toys and going home." "I am not taking toys," I said, looking him up and down. "I am preventing theft." I turned to the room. My eyes found my Aunt Sarah, who I knew had put a check for $500 in an envelope. "I am securing these so they can be returned to you," I announced to the guests, "because if I leave them here, I cannot guarantee they will not be used to pay off a gambling debt or a bar tab before the night is over." A gasp rippled through the room. It was a low blow. Perhaps, but it was a necessary one. I knew Ethan's finances. I knew he was desperate. Leaving cash in his vicinity was negligent. Ethan lunged for my arm. He grabbed my elbow, his fingers digging into the silk of my dress. "Come outside," he gritted out through clenched teeth. "Right now. We are going to talk about this privately. You are making a scene." I looked at his hand on my arm. Then I looked at his face. "Let go," I said. I did not yell. I did not pull away. I just stated the instruction with the authority of someone who manages crisis security for a living. He hesitated, then dropped his hand. "You want private?" I asked, my voice rising just enough to ensure his mother heard every syllable. "You want to save face. You stood on a stage and called me pathetic. You invited an audience to my execution. Now you want a private pardon? No." "I was joking," Ethan yelled, pivoting back to the crowd, spreading his hands in a plea for understanding. "God, can no one take a joke anymore? I was roasting her. It is a tradition. She is blowing this out of proportion because she is insecure." He pointed at me, his finger shaking. "She is crazy. Look at her. Who does this? Who calculates everything like this? It is sick." "I calculate," I said, "because someone has to." I looked past him to where his mother, Linda, was sitting. She had collapsed back into her chair, her hand over her mouth. Her eyes were darting between her son and the screen that still displayed the declined transaction. "Linda," I said, softness entering my voice for the first time, though it was a cold, pitying softness. "I am sorry you had to fly here for this." Linda blinked, tears welling in her eyes. "Isla, I do not understand. Ethan told us he paid for the venue. He said his bonus covered the catering." Ethan froze. He looked at his mother, panic flaring in his eyes. "Mom, do not listen to her. She is manipulating the numbers." "There are no numbers to manipulate," I said to Linda. "Ethan does not have a bonus. He does not have a contract in Raleigh. He has $19 in his checking account, and as of 3 minutes ago, $0 in available credit." Linda looked at her son, the hero worship, the pride she always wore when she looked at him, began to crack. She saw the suit I bought. She saw the watch I bought. And she saw the lie he had sold her. "Ethan," she whispered, "is that true? Did you not pay for any of this?" "I was going to," Ethan shouted, his voice cracking like a teenager's. "I have money coming in. Isla just needed to front it for the cash flow. That is how business works." "Mom, she is sabotaging my liquidity." "I am not your liquidity provider, Ethan," I said. "I am your ex-fiancé. I signaled to one of the waiters, a young man who looked terrified. "Please help my parents to their car, and ensure the gift box is placed in my father's trunk. Keep the key until I get there." The waiter nodded vigorously and hurried to comply. I took a step back. The distance between Ethan and me felt like a canyon, widening with every second. "You are going to regret this," Ethan spat, his facade of the charming businessman completely gone, replaced by the petulant face of a man who had never been told no. "You are destroying the best thing that ever happened to you. You are going to be alone, Isla, a lonely, bitter workaholic with cats." "Better a workaholic," I said, "than a thief." I turned my back on him. It was the hardest physical movement I have ever made. Every instinct in my body wanted to stay and fight, to scream, to list every single indignity I had suffered for 3 years. I wanted to tell him about the nights I stayed up worrying about his debt while he slept. I wanted to tell him about the shame I felt every time I covered for him, but I knew that any more words would just be fuel for him. He would feed on my anger. He would feed on my pain. So I gave him nothing. I walked toward the double oak doors. My heels clicked on the floor. Steady and rhythmic. My spine felt strange stiff, straight, as if a steel rod had been inserted where a wishbone used to be. I felt lighter. The air in the room felt thin, but the air coming from the hallway felt fresh. I pushed the doors open. The hallway was quiet. The muted sound of the jazz playlist from inside cut off as the doors swung shut behind me. I was out. I had done it. I started walking toward the exit, my hand clutching my phone. I needed to call the locksmith. I needed to call the landlord. My phone buzzed in my hand. I looked down, expecting a text from my mom or Jules. It was a notification from my bank app. Another one. Alert suspicious activity. Merchant Dreamscapes videography attempted action, reversal of deposit, initiated by client portal. I stopped walking. Dreamscapes videography. That was the videographer for the wedding day. I had paid the $3,000 deposit 2 months ago. Ethan was not just trying to spend money, he was trying to claw it back. He was logging into the vendor portals using the passwords I had foolishly shared with him in a shared Google Doc for the wedding planning, and trying to cancel the contracts to trigger a refund. He thought if he canceled the gig, the refund would go to the card on file. He thought he could funnel the money back into the account and then transfer it out before the freeze fully took hold across all channels. Or perhaps he just wanted to burn it all down so I wouldn't get a dime back. I stared at the screen. He was still in that room, likely on his phone under the table while his mother cried, trying to steal $3,000 from the woman he just publicly humiliated. He thought he was fast. He thought he knew the system. I tapped the notification. "You want to play digital tag. Ethan," I whispered to the empty hallway. I opened the contact for my attorney, a shark of a woman named Simone, who I had retained for business contracts, but never thought I would need for a domestic dispute. I hit the call button. "Simone," I said when she answered, "I need an emergency cease and desist, and I need you to flag a potential wire fraud in progress. Yes, tonight." The game had changed. He wasn't just an ex, he was a hostile entity. And I was done playing defense. The door of my car slammed shut, sealing me inside the leather-scented silence of my Audi. My hands were gripping the steering wheel, but they were not shaking. My heart was beating at a steady, rhythmic thrum, the kind of pulse I get when a headliner is 20 minutes late and I have to restructure an entire gala run of show in real time. I did not start the engine immediately. I had a 20-minute drive back to my apartment, and I needed to use every single second of it. Ethan was currently stranded at the Hawthorne loft, likely trying to charm a waiter into giving him a ride or screaming at his mother. That gave me a window. I placed my phone in the dashboard mount and tapped the speed dial for the Platinum Client Services line of my bank. It was 7:25 in the evening. By 7:45, Ethan Vaughn would effectively cease to exist as a financial entity in my world. "Identity verification successful, Ms. Harris," the operator said, her voice crisp and professional. "How can I assist you tonight?" "I need to execute an emergency removal of an authorized user on all my credit lines," I said. I pulled out of the parking lot, my eyes scanning the road, my brain visualizing the spreadsheet of my life. The name is Ethan Vaughn. I also need to flag my joint checking account for immediate freeze. No transfers out. No withdrawals. Understood, the operator replied. I could hear the rapid clicking of a keyboard. I see 3 cards with Mr. Vaughn as a user, the Sapphire Reserve, the Business Platinum, and the Delta Sky Miles. Do you want to remove him from all 3? All 3? I said. And please issue new card numbers for myself immediately. Expedite shipping to my office address, not my home. And one more thing, I need to contest a pending transaction for $5,000 attempted 10 minutes ago. Mark it as unauthorized. Done. Mr. Vaughn's cards are now declined. The new cards will arrive in 48 hours. Is there anything else? Yes. Reset the online banking password. He has my login. I want him locked out of the interface entirely. Secured. You will receive a temporary password via text. Thank you. I hung up. Step 1 complete. The bleeding had stopped. Now for the oxygen supply. I merged onto the highway, the city lights of Asheville blurring past me. I kept one hand on the wheel and used voice commands to navigate to the ATT app. Ethan loved his data. He loved streaming 4K videos of grind-set influencers while he sat in the passenger seat of my car. He was on my family plan because he claimed it was romantic to share a line. Manage lines. I commanded the interface. Select line ending in 4588. Suspend service. The app asked for confirmation. Suspend service for lost, stolen device. Yes, I said aloud. I confirmed the action. Somewhere back at the venue, Ethan's phone was about to lose its 5G connection. No more frantic calls to his bros. No more Instagram stories playing the victim. He would be reduced to begging for Wi-Fi passwords like a teenager, but I wasn't done. I opened the Uber app. I went to the family profile settings. Ethan was listed there. Of course, he took Ubers everywhere, to the gym, to meetings, to bars. He racked up about $400 a month in rides, all auto-charged to my card. I hit delete user. He was not going to take a black car home on my dime tonight. He could walk. Next, the subscriptions: Netflix, HBO Max, Spotify Premium, the Peloton app he used but never actually paid for. I went through the list in my head. I could not cancel them all while driving, but I could do the most important one: the password reset on my Google account, which controlled the login for everything else. Hey Google, I said. Security checkup. Sign out all other devices. It was petty, it was small, but it was necessary. I was reclaiming my digital footprint. Then, I made the call that I knew would hurt him the most. I dialed the number for Lux Leasing, the agency that managed the lease on the Range Rover Ethan drove. Technically, the lease was in my name, under my company's fleet for tax purposes. Ethan was listed as a primary driver, but the contract had a specific clause about unauthorized use and revocation of privileges that I had insisted on adding, purely out of habit as a contract nerd. Emergency line, a man answered. This is Isla Harris. Account number 8990, I said, changing lanes smoothly. I am the leaseholder for the black Range Rover Sport, license plate KVG42. I am formally revoking driving privileges for the secondary driver, Ethan Vaughn, effective immediately. I have reason to believe the vehicle is at risk of being used recklessly. We can send a repo team if you are concerned about asset safety, Ms. Harris, the agent said. Or we can remotely disable the starter if the vehicle is parked. It is parked, I said. At the Hawthorne Loft on Biltmore Avenue. Disable the starter. I will arrange for a tow to my office lot tomorrow. Disabling now. The vehicle will not turn on. I felt a cold, grim satisfaction. Ethan loved that car. He treated it like a personality trait. Now, it was just a 2-ton paperweight. I was 5 minutes from my apartment building now. The texts started coming in. Since I had cut his service, they were coming through as iMessages whenever he managed to connect to the venue's Wi-Fi. They popped up on my car's display screen one after another. A manic ticker tape of his mental breakdown. Ethan babe, please, you are overreacting. Pick up. Ethan, I am sorry about the pathetic comment. It was just a joke. I was nervous, Ethan. The cards are not working. I cannot pay the valet. Isla, stop this. Ethan, you are ruining my life. You are a vindictive bitch. Ethan, you are destroying my career. People are watching, Ethan. I love you. Please, don't do this. Ethan, I'm going to sue you for emotional distress. I listened to the notifications ping, letting them stack up. I did not reply. Silence is the loudest noise you can make in a negotiation. Then, my phone rang. It was not Ethan. It was Marcus. Marcus was Ethan's best friend, the crypto evangelist who had laughed the loudest during the speech. He was likely realizing that without me, Ethan was a liability, not an asset. I answered on speaker. This is Isla. Isla. Hey, Marcus said. His voice was fake soothing, like he was talking to a jumper on a ledge. Look, things got crazy back there. Ethan is a mess. He is crying. Man, he really loves you. He has a funny way of showing it, I said, turning onto my street. He is just under a lot of pressure with the studio launch, Marcus said. Look, why don't you just unlock the cards for tonight? Just get him home. Let him cool off. You guys can talk tomorrow. You do not want to burn the bridge, right? The bridge is already ashes. Marcus, I said. Come on, Isla. Marcus pushed, his tone hardening. Do not be like this. He was going to handle this better. We talked about it. He told me he was planning to transition to a new setup once the Series A funding came through in a few months. He just wanted to upgrade his lifestyle first. He was going to let you down easy. I slammed on the brakes at a red light. The tires screeched slightly. Repeat that, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. What? Marcus stammered. He was planning to transition to a new setup, I asked. He was planning to leave me after he got his funding. I mean, not leave you, per se. Marcus backpedaled, realizing he had just stepped on a landmine. Just, he felt like he needed a partner who fit the new vibe. Someone with a bit more public appeal, but he stuck around because he didn't want to hurt you while you were stressed about work. He stuck around because I was paying his rent, I corrected. And you knew. You all knew. It is not like that. Goodbye, Marcus, I said. Tell Ethan he can sleep on your couch. Oh, wait. You live in a studio. Do you not? Good luck with that. I hung up. So it was premeditated. It wasn't just a snap judgment or cold feet. He had been planning to use me as a stepping stone until his imaginary ship came in, and then discard me for a better fit. Someone younger, someone more famous. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I had been sleeping next to a con artist. I pulled into the underground garage of my building. I parked in my spot, the only spot, because I never paid for a second one for Ethan's car despite his begging. I took the elevator up to the 12th floor. I called the building manager, Mr. Silva, on the way up. Mr. Silva, it is Isla Harris in 12B, I said. I have a domestic situation. Ethan Vaughn is no longer a resident. He is not on the lease, as you know. I need his key fob deactivated immediately. Of course, Ms. Harris, Mr. Silva said. I saw him leave earlier with his tuxedo bag. Is he returning? He might try, I said. If he does, do not let him up. If he causes a scene, call the police. I am authorizing a lock change on my unit door as well. I have a locksmith meeting me in 10 minutes. I will alert the night concierge, Mr. Silva said. He will not get past the lobby. I walked down the hallway to my apartment. It felt strange to approach my own front door with such apprehension. I unlocked it and stepped inside. The apartment was quiet. It smelled of the vanilla diffuser I kept in the hallway. It looked exactly as I had left it 3 hours ago, when I thought I was going to get married. Ethan's gym bag was by the door. His sneakers were kicked off in the middle of the rug. I did not cry. I did not collapse. I walked to the kitchen island and opened my laptop. I needed evidence. I pulled up the text messages on my desktop app. I took screenshots of everything: the threats, the begging, the admissions of guilt. I saved the voicemail Marcus had left me a week ago where he joked about Ethan leveling up soon. I opened a new folder on my drive case file: Vaughn. I logged the times. 1907. Public defamation and cancellation of wedding. 1920. Attempted unauthorized transaction, $5,000. 1945. Harassment via text begin. 1952. Witness admission of premeditated financial exploitation. Marcus. I printed a PDF of the bank notifications showing the declined charges. Then, I drafted an email to Simone, my lawyer. Subject urgent. Cease desist. Potential restraining order. Simone, the wedding is off. Ethan Vaughn is to be removed from all legal associations with me. I have already severed the financials. He is currently harassing me via text and attempting to access my accounts. I need a cease-desist letter ready by tomorrow morning sent to his parents' address in Ohio and his email. I also want to discuss a suit for damages regarding the wedding deposits he claimed to pay but did not. See attached evidence of immediate financial retaliation. Isla. I hit send. I sat back in my chair, the adrenaline finally starting to ebb, leaving behind a cold, hard exhaustion. I looked around the apartment. It was mine. It had always been mine. He was just a ghost who had haunted it for a while. My phone buzzed again. An email notification. I frowned. It was late for work emails. I checked the sender. It was Sonic Wave Audio, the vendor we had hired for the reception sound system. Subject update to payment method. Hi Isla. I hope the rehearsal is going well. We just received an urgent email request from an Ethan V. via your client portal asking to change the refund destination account for the security deposit to a new routing number ending in 8890. He mentioned there was a banking glitch with your main card. We just wanted to confirm this change with you before processing. As per our contract, which states you are the primary contact, let us know ASAP. I stared at the screen. He wasn't just trying to reverse charges. He was trying to redirect the refunds for the contracts I had paid into his own personal account. He was trying to loot the wreckage before the smoke even cleared. He was sitting in the dark at the venue, stranded, car disabled, phone cut off, and his first instinct was to try and embezzle the security deposit. I picked up my phone. I didn't text Ethan. I didn't text the vendor. I dialed Simone back. Isla, she answered, sounding surprised. I just saw your email. Are you safe? I am safe, I said, my voice trembling with a new kind of fury. But the cease and desist is not enough. What happened? He is trying to reroute vendor refunds to his personal account, I said. That is wire fraud, isn't it? If he misrepresented himself as you or claimed authorization, he does not have yes, Simone said, her tone shifting from concern to professional sharpness. That is a felony. Good, I said, because I don't just want him to stop, I want him to pay. The fallout of a nuclear explosion is silent at first. You see the flash. You feel the heat. But the radiation sickness takes time to set in. For the first 48 hours after I walked out of the Hawthorne loft, I expected silence. I expected shame. I expected Ethan to go underground, humiliated by the fact that his entire lifestyle had been exposed as a mirage funded by his fiancé. I was naive. I forgot the first rule of the narcissist. If they cannot control the truth, they will control the narrative. By Monday morning, I was not the woman who had stood up for herself. In the court of public opinion, or at least, the specific echo chamber of Asheville's entrepreneurial scene. I was the villain. I sat at my desk at Larkspur Events, sipping black coffee that tasted like battery acid, scrolling through screenshots Jules had sent me. She had been monitoring Ethan's social media, so I did not have to. Ethan had not posted about the breakup directly. That would be too messy. Instead, he had posted a black and white photo of himself looking out a window, brooding, with a caption that made my stomach churn. Sometimes, you have to walk away from people who measure love in dollar signs. Art cannot breathe in a cage of spreadsheets. Rebuilding from zero, the grind never stops. Below it, the comments were a cesspool of support from his bros and people who did not know better. Keep your head up, king. Females do not understand the vision. You dodged a bullet, bro. Financial control is abuse. That was the phrase he was running with. Financial control. He was spinning the fact that I stopped paying his bills into a story about me being a tyrant who used money to emasculate him. He was the starving artist. I was the corporate monster who wanted to own him. I put the phone down face first on my desk. "He is good," I whispered to the empty office. "I will give him that. He is a storyteller." My intercom buzzed. It was Sarah, my receptionist. "Isla," she said, her voice hesitant, "your phone has been ringing off the hook, but there is a personal call on line 2. She says she is Linda Vaughn. She says it is urgent." I closed my eyes for a second. Linda, Ethan's mother, the woman who had cried at the rehearsal dinner. Part of me wanted to tell Sarah to send it to voicemail, but the other part of me, the part that needed to know exactly how deep the delusion went, picked up the receiver. "This is Isla," I said. "Isla." Linda's voice came through, thick with that specific tone of maternal disappointment that usually precedes a guilt trip. "I am glad you picked up. I was worried you would screen me." "I am working, Linda," I said. "What can I do for you?" "I wanted to speak to you woman to woman," she said. The phrase made the hair on my arms stand up. "I know things got heated on Friday, and I know you are hurt, but I think we need to de-escalate this situation before it ruins everything." "Ruins everything," I repeated. "Linda, the wedding is canceled. The deposits are gone. There is nothing left to ruin." "I am talking about Ethan's spirit," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "He called me yesterday. He is devastated. Isla, he is sleeping on a friend's couch. He has no car. He said you cut off his phone. How can you be so cruel? You two were in love." "I was in love," I corrected. "Ethan was in debt." "Oh, stop with the money talk," she snapped, her tone hardening. "Money comes and goes. Relationships are about supporting each other through the hard times. Ethan is in a transition period. He is a visionary. Isla, he just needs a little more runway to get his studio off the ground. You have done so well for yourself. Would it really kill you to help him through this rough patch? Just until he gets on his feet." I leaned back in my leather chair. I looked at the ceiling. I thought about the 3 years of rent, the car lease, the suits, the dinners, the vacations he claimed were networking trips. "Linda," I said calmly, "can I ask you a question?" "What?" "Who do you think has been paying for his rough patch for the last 3 years?" There was silence on the other end, not a pause, a void. "He has not had a job in 36 months, I continued, my voice steady. "Every shirt on his back, every meal he ate, the roof over his head, I paid for it. I was the runway. And do you know what he did with that support? He tried to steal from me. He lied to you, and he humiliated me in front of everyone we know. He said he was contributing," Linda stammered, her voice smaller now. "He said the business was doing well." "He lied," I said, "and now that I have stopped funding the lie, he is sending you to do his dirty work. I am not going to turn his phone back on. Linda, he is 34 years old. If he wants a phone, he can get a job at Starbucks and pay for a prepaid plan like an adult." "You are so cold," she whispered. "I never realized how cold you were." "I am not cold," I said. "I am just insolvent regarding the business of Ethan Vaughn." I hung up. My hand was shaking slightly, but not from sadness, from rage. They wanted me to be the villain, fine. I would be the villain who kept her bank account secure. I stood up and walked to the window overlooking downtown Asheville. Jules walked in a moment later, carrying 2 salads. She didn't knock. "I heard the tone of your voice from the hallway," Jules said, placing the bowls on my desk. "Was that the Queen Mother?" "She wants me to be a safety net," I said, staring out at the street below. "She thinks I abandoned him." "They always blame the woman for not fixing the broken man," Jules said, stabbing a cherry tomato with her fork. "But listen, I remembered something. While I was deep diving into his Facebook history last night, do not judge me. I saw some posts from about 6 months ago, tagged at the governor's ball." I frowned. "I did not go to the governor's ball. I was working a corporate retreat in Charlotte that weekend. Exactly, Jules said. But Ethan went, and he posted a selfie with the caption, representing Larkspur events at the gala. Big things coming. And then in the comments, someone asked if he was the owner, and he liked the comment. My blood ran cold. He used my company name, I asked. He used your company credibility, Jules corrected. Isla. Think about it. How did he get meetings with those investors he was always bragging about? He has no portfolio. He has no degree in finance. He walked into those rooms and introduced himself as the partner of Isla Harris. He leveraged your reputation to validate his scam. It clicked. The pieces fell into place like a heavy steel door slamming shut. The networking, the insistence on high-end venues, the way he always wanted to be seen at my events, wearing a laminate badge that said VIP. He wasn't just living off my money. He was harvesting my professional equity. He was using the trust I had built over 10 years of hard work to lend weight to his vaporware business. He was impersonating a stakeholder, I said. That is why he needed the expensive car. That is why he needed the rehearsal dinner at the Hawthorne. It wasn't about the wedding. It was a stage for him to pitch to investors. He invited people I did not even know. Remember the guys in the back? The ones who looked like venture capital bros? Jules nodded. He was going to use our wedding as a fundraising round. A knock on my office door interrupted us. It was Sarah again. She looked pale. Isla, she whispered. He is here. My heart hammered against my ribs. Who? Ethan, she said. He is in the lobby. I told him you were busy, but he is making a scene. I stood up. Did you call security? I tried, Sarah said. But he is not yelling. He is crying. He is telling the other clients in the waiting room that he is worried about you. He is saying you are having a mental breakdown, and he just needs to make sure you are not hurting yourself. My jaw tightened until it ached. Weaponized concern. It was the oldest trick in the book. If he screamed, he would be removed. But if he played the worried fiancé checking on his unstable partner, he made me look like the problem and himself like the saint. He was trying to force me to come out and create a spectacle, proving his narrative that I was emotional and crazy. Stay here, I told Jules. I am coming with you, Jules said, standing up. No, I said. He wants an audience. I am not going to give him a show. I walked out of my office and down the long corridor to the reception area. The glass walls of the conference room were to my left. Inside, I could see Mrs. Galloway, one of my biggest clients, meeting with my senior coordinator. She looked up as I passed, her expression curious. I reached the lobby. Ethan was standing near the front desk. He was not wearing the suit. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt that looked intentionally wrinkled. He looked unshaven. He looked like the picture of a heartbroken man. Please, he was saying to Sarah, his voice trembling loud enough for everyone to hear. I just need to see her eyes. I know she's not well. I know she is spiraling. I just want to know she is safe. I stepped into the lobby. I am perfectly safe, Ethan, I said. He spun around. His eyes widened, and for a split second, the mask slipped. I saw the anger. Then, instantly, the sad puppy look returned. Isla, he breathed, taking a step toward me with his hands out. Oh, thank God. You look tired. Are you eating? I have been so worried. You cut off the phone. You blocked me. That is not rational behavior. Isla, that is a manic episode. He was doing it. He was diagnosing me in front of my staff and 2 prospective clients sitting on the velvet sofas. Sarah, I said, not taking my eyes off him. Please note the time, 2:15 in the afternoon. I looked at Ethan. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry. I used the voice I used when a vendor tried to double charge me for linens. Ethan, you are trespassing, I said. You are not a client. You are not an employee. And you are certainly not my fiancé. I am your partner, he pleaded, stepping closer. Isla, stop the act. I know you are hurting. I forgive you for Friday. I forgive you for the scene. Just come home. We can fix this. I changed the locks, Ethan, I said. And I have already filed a report regarding your attempt to access my vendor accounts. If you do not leave this building in 30 seconds, I will have the police escort you out for harassment. Harassment, he laughed. An incredulous, victimized sound. I am trying to help you. You are sick, Isla. You are obsessed with money and control, and it has made you sick. The door to the conference room opened. Mrs. Galloway stepped out. She was a formidable woman in her 60s who ran a logistics empire. She had zero tolerance for nonsense. Is everything all right here, Isla? She asked, her voice cutting through the room. Ethan turned to her, sensing a new audience. Ma'am, please, tell her to be reasonable. She's throwing away 3 years of a relationship because of a misunderstanding. She is having a breakdown. Mrs. Galloway looked at Ethan. She looked at his wrinkled shirt. She looked at his desperate, shifting eyes. Then she looked at me. I stood tall. I did not apologize for him. Mrs. Galloway, I said, I apologize for the disruption. This is a personal matter that is being handled legally. We will be with you in a moment, Mrs. Galloway did not look at me with pity. She looked at me with respect. She turned to Ethan. Young man, she said, I have done business with Ms. Harris for 5 years. The only thing she is obsessed with is excellence, and if she says you are trespassing, I suggest you leave before I call the commissioner, whom I am having dinner with tonight. Ethan froze. He looked around the room. He saw Sarah on the phone with building security. He saw Jules standing in the hallway doorway, filming him with her phone. He saw that his performance was failing. His face contorted. The sadness vanished, replaced by a sneer. You are going to die alone, Isla, he spat. You are a cold-hearted bitch and no one will ever love you like I did. That is the hope, I said. Security guards, 2 large men in blazers, stepped out of the elevator. Ethan saw them. He grabbed his bag and stormed out, shoving past the glass doors. I let out a breath. The lobby was silent. I am so sorry. Mrs. Galloway, I said, turning to her. Do not apologize for taking out the trash, dear, Mrs. Galloway said, adjusting her glasses. Now, about the centerpieces for the gala. I was thinking orchids. I went back to my office, my legs feeling a little like jelly, but my head clear. I realized then that revenge wasn't about screaming. It wasn't about slashing tires or burning clothes. It was about holding the line. It was about refusing to let them write your character. He wanted me to be the crazy ex. I refused to play the role. I would be the professional. I would be the adult. And I would let him scream himself into irrelevance. I sat down and my phone rang again. It was Simone. Isla, she said. Her voice was serious. I got the incident report from your office. We are adding it to the file for the restraining order, but I need to ask you something. What is it? I asked, sensing a shift in her tone. I have been running the preliminary audit on your liabilities, just to be safe. You know how we talked about him using your cards? Yes. I found a document in the public records, Simone said. It is a loan application for a small business line of credit, $50,000. It was approved 4 months ago. I never applied for a loan, I said, confused. Larkspur has plenty of cash flow. The loan is in the name of Vaughn Growth Studio, Simone said. But the guarantor the cosigner listed who put up collateral. She paused. Isla, are you sitting down? I am sitting, I said, my hand gripping the edge of the desk. The cosigner is you, Simone said, and there is a signature at the bottom. It looks like yours. Isla, are you absolutely sure he never signed anything in your name? A digital signature, a power of attorney, anything. The room seemed to tilt. I thought about the times he asked me to sign things quickly. I thought about the times he handled the paperwork for the apartment. I do not think so, I whispered. We need to get a forensic handwriting analyst, Simone said, because if that is his signature pretending to be yours, this isn't just a breakup anymore. This is federal fraud. And if he defaults on that $50,000, the bank is coming for your house. I stared at the phone. He hadn't just tried to steal the deposits. He had mortgaged my future. Get the analyst, I said, my voice cold as steel. And Simone, do not just bury him, cement the hole. The $50,000 loan application sat on my desk like a loaded gun. For a long time, I just stared at it. I stared at the signature at the bottom of the page, a scrawl that spelled Isla Harris, but curled at the end of the S in a way I never did. My hand finishes with a sharp, upward strike. This signature looped back down, lazy and heavy. It was a forgery, and not even a particularly good one. It was the work of someone who thought he was entitled to my name, so he didn't need to perfect the art of stealing it. The nausea I had felt in the lobby when Ethan tried to stage his rescue was gone. In its place was a cold, vibrating clarity. This was not a breakup. This was a crime scene, and I was the lead investigator. I called an emergency meeting with my internal accountant, Ben, for 7 o'clock that evening. I told him to bring everything, every invoice, every expense report, every client deposit slip from the last 12 months. Is this about the wedding costs? Ben asked when he walked in, carrying a stack of binders. He looked tired and uncomfortable. Everyone in the office knew by now. The gossip had spread through the Asheville event circuit faster than a flu virus. No, Ben, I said, clearing the surface of my conference table. This is about the company. I have reason to believe there has been a security breach regarding our accounts receivable. We worked in silence for the first hour. The only sound was the turning of pages and the aggressive clicking of my mouse as I navigated through the back end of our invoicing software. I started with the vendor payments. Ethan had been helping me with some administrative tasks 6 months ago when I was overwhelmed with 3 back-to-back weddings. I had given him access to the draft folder to proofread contracts. I realize now that was like handing a burglar the blueprints to the vault. Here, I said, pointing to a digital invoice from a company called Lumina Tech Solutions. I do not recognize that vendor, Ben said, squinting at the screen. Who are they? According to this invoice, they provided on-site network consultation for the rigid corporate gala we did in March. I said, the bill is for $2,500. I remember that gala, Ben said. The Wi-Fi was provided by the venue. We did not hire an outside consultant. I clicked on the PDF of the invoice. The address for Lumina Tech Solutions was a P.O. box in Charlotte. I ran a quick search on the Secretary of State's website. The LLC was registered to an agent, but the registered email address was yvonnebusinessgmail.com. My stomach tightened. He billed my company for IT services he never performed. And I signed off on the batch payment because it was buried under 40 other invoices for catering and flowers. Isla, Ben said, his voice dropping. Look at this. He slid a bank statement across the table. He had highlighted a transaction in yellow. This is the deposit for the Henderson wedding, Ben explained. $20,000. It cleared on the 15th of last month. Standard procedure. Right, I said. So, what is the problem? Look at the routing path, Ben said, tapping the paper with his pen. Usually, the client wires directly to our operating account at Chase, but this wire came from an account at Wells Fargo. The client, Mrs. Henderson, banks with Bank of America. I frowned, leaning in. Why would it bounce through Wells Fargo? I called the bank, Ben said. They said it was an intermediary transfer. The money sat in the Wells Fargo account for 48 hours before being forwarded to us. But here's the catch. It was $20,000 when it left Mrs. Henderson, but only $19,800 when it hit us. $200, I whispered. Where did the $200 go? Transaction fee, Ben said. Or a skim. It is small enough that we might write it off as a wire discrepancy or an exchange rate error if we were not looking. But Isla, the account name at Wells Fargo, it is listed as Larkspur Logistics. I sat back, the air leaving my lungs. Larkspur Logistics, a shadow company, a mimic. Ethan had intercepted the invoice before it went to the client. He had changed the wiring instructions to his own shell account, let the money hit, skimmed a little off the top, just enough to buy a nice dinner or a pair of shoes, and then forwarded the rest to me so I wouldn't notice the missing payment. He hadn't just used my credit cards. He had built a pipeline into my revenue stream. He was testing the pipes, I said, my voice sounding hollow in the empty conference room. He took $200 to see if we would notice. If we didn't next time, it would have been $2,000, then $10,000. Isla, this is embezzlement, Ben said. We have to call the police. We will, I said, but not yet. I need to know how deep the rot goes. I left the office at 10 o'clock at night. My eyes burned, my head throbbed. I needed fresh air. But more than that, I needed perspective. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of paper and numbers, unable to see the horizon. There was a late-night industry mixer happening at the Grand Bohemian Hotel. Usually, I would skip it. I was exhausted, and I was currently the subject of the town's most scandalous breakup. But I remembered seeing the guest list earlier in the week. There was a name on it, Julian Thorne. Julian was a brand strategist from Chicago who was in town for a conference. I had met him once, briefly, when Ethan introduced us. Ethan had been nervous during that introduction. I remembered now. He had rushed me away after a quick handshake. I needed to know why. I walked into the hotel bar. It was dimly lit, filled with the low hum of networking and jazz. I spotted Julian sitting at the bar, nursing a martini. He looked like he was done with conversations for the night. I walked up and took the stool next to him. Isla Harris, I said. We met last year. I was with Ethan Vaughn. Julian turned. He was a sharp-featured man in his 40s. When he heard Ethan's name, his expression shifted from polite disinterest to something guarded. Right, Julian said. The fiancé. I heard about the reconfiguration of your relationship. You can call it a cancellation, I said. Julian, I am going to be direct. I am currently auditing my life, and I have found some discrepancies that have Ethan's fingerprints all over them. Julian took a sip of his drink. He didn't look surprised. I found a shell company, I said, and a forged loan application, and I have a feeling this is not the first time he has done this. Julian sighed. He set his glass down on the marble coaster. I wondered how long it would take, he said quietly. He is good. He is charming. He makes you feel like you are investing in the next Elon Musk. You knew him in Chicago, I asked. I knew his ex, Julian said. Sarah, lovely girl, architect, smart, organized, successful, just like you. The name landed hard. Sarah, another woman who built things, another host for the Parasite. What happened? I asked. Same playbook, Julian said. He met her at a gala, talked about his consulting firm, moved into her loft in Wicker Park within 3 months. He said he was waiting for a seed round to close. Sarah paid for everything, the car, the clothes, the image maintenance. And then she found out he had opened a credit line in her name to fund a crypto mining rig that didn't exist. Julian said, she kicked him out, and he destroyed her. He called her controlling, I guessed. He told everyone she was abusive, Julian corrected. He told their mutual friends that she used money to manipulate him, that she was mentally unstable. He posted sad photos on Instagram. He ruined her reputation in the local design community. She had to move to Denver to start over. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It wasn't just a bad relationship, it was a script. Ethan wasn't improvising. He was reciting lines he had perfected on another woman. Did she sue him? I asked. She tried, Julian said, but he had nothing to take, and he had covered his tracks well. He claimed the credit line was a misunderstanding, a verbal agreement she reneged on. It was, he said, she said, and Sarah just wanted to be done. She paid the debt and vanished. Julian turned to me, his eyes serious. He thinks you will do the same. Isla, he said. He thinks you are too proud to drag this through the mud. He thinks you will pay the $50,000 just to make him go away so you can protect your brand. I looked at my reflection in the mirror behind the bar. I saw the tiredness in my eyes. Yes, but I also saw something else. I saw the woman who had built a company from a laptop on a dining room table. I saw the woman who negotiated with unions and city councils. Sarah from Chicago had run. She had paid the exit fee to escape the predator. I was not Sarah. He miscalculated, I said. How so? Julian asked. I do not care about the mud, I said, standing up. I own a pair of boots. The next morning, I was sitting in the conference room of a forensic accounting firm that Simone, my lawyer, had recommended. The room was sterile, white, and smelled of sanitizer. Across from me sat Arthur Vance. He did not look like an accountant. He looked like a detective who had traded a badge for a calculator. He had gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and hands that moved with precision as he laid out the documents I had provided. You have been thorough, Ms. Harris, Arthur said. Most people come to me with a hunch. You brought me a roadmap. I do not like ambiguity. Mr. Vance, I said. Call me Arthur, he said. He picked up the loan application, the one with the forged signature. He placed it under a magnifying lamp. I have compared this to the 20 verified samples of your signature you provided, Arthur said. The pressure points are wrong. You write with a heavy downstroke on the capital I and a light crossbar. This forger uses equal pressure throughout. It is a drawing of a signature, not a signature. Can we prove it was him? I asked. He will say I signed it. He will say I forgot. We can prove it, Arthur said, because of the digital metadata. He pulled up an image on his laptop screen. This loan application was submitted via DocuSign, but the original PDF was uploaded from a specific IP address. Arthur explained. We traced the IP. It corresponds to a coffee shop in West Asheville called The Grind. Ethan goes there every morning, I said. He says it is his satellite office. Precisely, Arthur said. But here is the nail in the coffin. The PDF was created on a device named Ethan's MacBook Pro. The metadata is embedded in the file structure. He didn't scrub it. He created the document, pasted your signature from an image file. We can see the pixelation artifacts around the ink, and uploaded it. Simone, who was sitting next to me, leaned forward. Her eyes were gleaming. That is not just a civil dispute, Isla, Simone said. That is bank fraud. That is identity theft. That is a federal crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. And the wire rerouting? I asked. The Larkspur Logistics shell account. Wire fraud, Arthur confirmed. And since it crossed state lines, the bank servers are in different states, it is federal jurisdiction. I sat back. The weight of it was immense. I wasn't just talking about suing him for the cost of a wedding. I was talking about putting him in handcuffs. For a moment, a wave of old instinct washed over me. The instinct to protect him. The instinct that said, he is troubled. He is pathetic. Maybe prison is too harsh. Then I thought about Sarah in Chicago. I thought about the $50,000 debt he was trying to hang around my neck like a noose. I thought about the way he looked at me in the lobby, calling me a bitch because I wouldn't let him bleed me dry. He wasn't a partner. He was a predator, and predators do not stop hunting until they are caged. So, Arthur said, taking off his glasses, we have enough to go to the FBI, but investigations take time. And in the meantime, he is out there, likely trying to liquidate whatever he can. I do not want to wait for the FBI to file paperwork in 6 months, I said. I want to stop him now. Arthur smiled. It was a small, sharp smile. If this is indeed a forgery, Arthur said, tapping the loan application, we can trigger an immediate freeze on the funds, but we can do something better. We can lock him out of his own escape route in a way he will not have the script to improvise his way out of. How, I asked. The bank that issued this loan. Arthur said, they have a fraud protocol. If the guarantor you reports the fraud in person, they freeze the assets of the applicant him instantly, and they call him to come into the branch to verify his identity to release the funds. I understood immediately. You want me to bait the trap, I said. He thinks the money is his, Simone added. He thinks he got away with it. If the bank calls and says there is a minor issue with the release of the funds, he will go. He is greedy. He will walk right into the branch. And when he gets there, I asked, "We will be waiting," Simone said. "With the police." I looked at the forged signature one last time. It looked so weak, so desperate. "Set it up," I said. "Let us see how good his acting is when the audience is wearing badges." The war didn't stay in the bank ledgers. It spilled out into the one place I had spent a decade fortifying my professional reputation. Wednesday morning started with a phone call from the CEO of a luxury catering company I had worked with for 6 years. We were not just colleagues. We were friends who had survived bridal meltdowns and power outages together. But when I answered the phone, her voice was not friendly. It was stiff. It was the voice of someone covering her own liability. "Isla," she said, "I received an email this morning. An anonymous tip regarding the solvency of Larkspur Events." I felt the blood drain from my face, but I kept my voice steady. "What kind of tip, Karen?" "It claims that you are under federal investigation for misappropriating client deposits to fund personal real estate investments," she said. "Specifically, that you canceled your own wedding to liquidate the vendor contracts and pocket the cash." My hand tightened around my phone until my knuckles turned white. It was a masterpiece of projection. Ethan was accusing me of exactly what he had tried to do. He was taking his own crime, painting my face on it, and broadcasting it to the people who signed my paychecks. "Karen," I said, my tone low and serious, "I am going to send you a document via secure courier within the hour. It is a letter from my attorney, Simone Parker. It outlines the current legal actions I am taking against a former associate for fraud and identity theft. Larkspur is solvent. My books are open. This is a smear campaign by a desperate man who is about to be indicted." "Okay," Karen said, the ice in her voice thawing just a fraction. "Send the letter. But Ayla people are talking. You know how this town is." I did know. Asheville is a small city disguised as a big destination. The event industry is a village. If one person sneezes, everyone else grabs a tissue. I hung up and opened my inbox. There were 3 more emails from vendors asking clarifying questions about upcoming invoices. They were polite, but the subtext was clear. "Are you going to steal our money?" Ethan was not just trying to hurt me, he was trying to starve me. He knew that if he cut off my income, I wouldn't have the resources to fight him in court. He wanted to bleed me dry so I would be forced to drop the fraud charges just to survive. I walked out of my office and stood in the center of the open plan workspace, my Team 3 coordinators and Sarah. The receptionist looked up. They looked terrified. They had seen the emails too. "Listen to me," I said, my voice projecting clearly without shouting. "We are under attack, not from the market, but from a malicious actor. You all know who he is. Do not engage with rumors. Do not reply to anonymous emails. Forward everything to me. We do not fight this in the comments section. We fight this with paperwork. Are we clear?" They nodded. They were loyal. But I could see the worry. They depended on me for their rent. Ethan was threatening their livelihoods too. I went back to my desk and logged onto social media. I had to know the scope of the damage. Ethan's feed was a masterclass in weaponized victimhood. He had posted a long, rambling text post on LinkedIn of all places titled, "The Cost of Ambition." It is hard when you realize the person you built a life with views you as an employee, not a partner, he wrote. I stepped away from a toxic environment where financial leverage was used as a tool of abuse. Men can be victims of financial control too. Rebuilding my studio from scratch. Integrity is the only currency that matters. It was disgusting. It was brilliant. He was using the buzzwords of the moment: financial control, toxic, abuse to shield himself. He knew that if he claimed abuse first, any accusation I made would look like retaliation. Underneath the post, his echo chamber was in full swing. Stay strong, brother. Women like that always want to wear the pants until the bill comes. Sounds like you escaped a narcissist. Keep grinding. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the screenshots of the forged loan application. I wanted to post the bank alerts. I wanted to burn his digital sanctuary to the ground. But I didn't. "Do not wrestle with a pig," I whispered to myself, repeating an old adage my father used to say. You both get dirty, and the pig likes it, I called Simone instead. He is escalating, I said as soon as she picked up. He is emailing my clients. He is accusing me of embezzlement. That is defamation per se, Simone said, her voice sharp. It is actionable. Damages are presumed. We can add it to the pile. The pile is getting high. Simone, I said, but the legal system is slow. He is destroying my business today. I need him to stop. We are filing the emergency injunction this afternoon, Simone said. But Isla, you need to be careful. A cornered animal is dangerous. If he feels like his narrative is failing, he might try to confront you again. Do not be alone. I am always careful, I said, but I wasn't careful enough. That evening, I stayed late at the office again. I was compiling the truth packets, redacted versions of the fraud evidence to send to my top 5 clients if they asked. It was defensive, but necessary. I left the building at 8:30. The streetlights were humming in the humid night air. My car was parked in the back lot, usually a secure area, but the security guard had gone on patrol around the front. I was 10 feet from my car when a figure stepped out from behind the dumpster. I didn't scream. I stopped, dropped my keys between my knuckles, a habit from college, and widened my stance. It was Ethan. He looked worse than he had in the lobby. His eyes were rimmed with red. He was wearing a hoodie that looked like he had slept in it. He didn't look like the sleek brand architect anymore. He looked like what he was, a junkie addicted to other people's money. You are ruining me, he said. His voice was raspy. Get away from me, Ethan, I said, my voice calm but loud. I have pepper spray and I will use it. I cannot even get a coffee, he said, taking a step forward. My cards are frozen. The bank called me in for an identity verification tomorrow. You did that? You flagged me. You flagged yourself when you forged my signature, I said. You committed a felony, Ethan. Did you think I would just pay it off like a parking ticket? I did it for us, he shouted, the sound echoing off the brick walls of the alley. I needed the capital to launch once the studio hit. I was going to pay it back with interest. You are so short-sighted, you killed the golden goose because you were scared of a little risk. There was no goose, Ethan, I shouted back, losing my cool for the first time. There was just a leech. You were never going to pay it back. You were going to spend it on dinners and trips and fake awards to feed your ego. He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You think you are so much better than me, Ms. Perfect, Ms. CEO, but look at you. You are alone in a parking lot. Your friends are laughing at you behind your back. I told them. Isla, I told everyone about how cold you are in bed, how you create spreadsheets for everything. It was a low blow, designed to hurt, designed to make me small. Is that the best you have? I asked. Bedroom insults. That is the behavior of a teenager. Ethan, not a CEO. He took another step. He was close now, too close. I could smell the stale alcohol on his breath. Undo the freeze, he said, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Call the bank. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, or I will make sure every client in this state thinks you are a thief. I will write a blog post every day. I will go on podcasts. I will make your name toxic. You are threatening me, I said. I am negotiating. He sneered. Do you want to lose your business? Do you want to be the woman who sued her fiancé? Or do you want to be the woman who consciously uncoupled and moved on? Make a choice. Do you want me to destroy you? I looked him in the eye. I saw the fear behind the threat. He was bluffing. He had no power. He only had noise. No, Ethan, I said. You are not destroying me. You are destroying yourself. I am just the one who stopped catching you when you fell. I held up my phone. The screen was glowing. I have been recording this conversation since you stepped out, I said. North Carolina is a one-party consent state. You just admitted to extortion and confirmed you know about the bank freeze. His face went white. He lunged for the phone. I stepped back and raised my arm, spraying a stream of pepper spray directly into his eyes. He screamed. He fell to his knees, clawing at his face. My eyes, you crazy bitch. I didn't stay to watch. I got into my car. locked the doors, and drove to the front of the building where the security guard was just coming around the corner. "Call the police," I told the guard through the window. "There is an intruder in the back lot. He just assaulted me." I sat in the car, shaking. The adrenaline was crashing, leaving me cold and nauseous. I had just pepper sprayed the man I was supposed to marry. But as I watched the blue lights of the police cruiser reflect off the office windows a few minutes later, I realized something. I didn't feel guilty. I felt safe. The police took a statement. Ethan had fled before they arrived, likely stumbling blind down the alley, but the recording was clear. The restraining order was granted the next morning. But a piece of paper doesn't stop a narcissist. It just makes them more creative. 2 days later, on Friday, I was sitting in Simone's office. The air conditioning was humming. "He missed the bank appointment," Simone said, looking at her notes. "He knew it was a trap. He is slippery. Ila. He is broke," I said. "He has to make a move. He needs cash." "He is trying to pivot," Simone said. "He is trying to find a new host, and he is trying to restore his credibility so he can land one." I looked at my phone. I had set up a Google alert for his name. A notification popped up. It was an Eventbrite link. Upcoming event. The Asheville Founders Circle topic: building trust in partnerships. How to navigate modern business relationships. Keynote speaker, Ethan Vaughn, CEO of Vaughn Growth Studio. Date this Saturday, 8:00 p.m. Location, the Blue Ridge Crown Hotel. I stared at the screen. The irony was so thick I could taste it. He was giving a speech on trust. He was going to stand on a stage, in front of potential investors and maybe even a new victim, and lecture them on integrity while wearing a suit I paid for, hiding a felony fraud charge. "He is audacious," Simone said, reading over my shoulder. "I will give him that." "He is not audacious," I said. "He is desperate. This is his Hail Mary. He needs to land a client at this event to pay for his legal defense." I zoomed in on the event details. It was a high-ticket event, $50 a seat. The room would be full of people with money to burn and dreams to sell. His perfect hunting ground. "He is going to use this platform to spin his story," I said. "He is going to tell the financial abuse story to a room full of sympathetic ears. He is going to cement his narrative." "We can send the police to the event," Simone suggested. "Serve him the restraining order publicly." "No," I said, thinking fast. "If we serve him, he plays the martyr. He tells everyone, 'See, she is stalking me.' He turns the police into his props." I looked at Simone. A plan was forming in my mind, a plan that was risky, but final. "We do not stop him from speaking," I said. "We let him speak. We let him dig the hole." "Isla," Simone warned. "What are you thinking? He is going to lie," I said. "He cannot help himself. He is going to use data. He is going to show slides. He is going to present case studies of his success." So, I said, a cold smile touching my lips. "Ethan is lazy. He doesn't have any real case studies. Do you know whose data he uses when he pitches?" Simone's eyes widened. "Yours. He uses Larkspur's analytics," I said. "He strips the logos, but he uses my numbers, my growth charts, my client retention rates. He thinks because he changed the header, it is his." "That is intellectual property theft," Simone said. "And if he presents it to solicit investment, it is fraud in real time," I finished. "And this time, we will not just have a recording. We will have a room full of witnesses." I stood up. "Buy 2 tickets. Simone," I said. "We are going to a seminar." "Ila, the restraining order says you cannot be within 500 feet of him," Simone reminded me. "The order protects me from him," I said. "It does not prevent me from attending a public event in a hotel ballroom where I'm a paying guest. Besides, I will be standing in the back, way back, until the exact right moment." I looked at the flyer again. Building trust. "He wants to talk about trust," I said. "Fine. Let us give him a pop quiz." The ballroom of the Blue Ridge Crown Hotel smelled of stale coffee and desperation. It was a Saturday night, 8 o'clock, and the room was filled with about 200 people wearing name tags and holding glasses of lukewarm white wine. This was the Asheville Founders Circle, a networking event designed for people who wanted to feel important without actually doing the work. I walked in through the side doors. Keeping to the shadows, I was not alone. To my left walked Simone, my attorney, wearing a black power suit that looked sharp enough to cut glass. To my right was Arthur, the forensic accountant, who looked like a university professor who had wandered into the wrong party. We were not here to mingle. We were here to witness. On the stage, bathed in a spotlight that was a little too bright, stood Ethan. He looked immaculate. He was wearing a navy blue suit, one I had bought for him at Nordstrom 3 months ago for a cousin's wedding. He had a lapel mic clipped to his tie. He was pacing the stage with the practiced rhythm of a TED Talk speaker, using his hands to emphasize words that meant absolutely nothing. "Integrity," Ethan said, his voice booming through the speakers. "It is not just a word, it is a currency. In the modern business landscape, capital is cheap, trust is expensive, and at Von Growth Studio, we believe that you cannot build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand." I felt a wave of nausea roll through my stomach. It was almost impressive. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of standing there, a man who had forged my signature on a loan application 72 hours ago, lecturing a room full of hopeful entrepreneurs about trust. "He is good," Simone whispered, leaning in close to my ear. "If I did not know he was a felon in the making, I might buy a timeshare from him." "He is not selling timeshares," I whispered back. "He is selling smoke." We moved further into the room, finding a spot near a pillar where we had a clear view of the stage but remained obscured by the crowd. I watched the audience. They were nodding. They were taking notes. They were eating it up. Ethan had that gift, the charisma of a cult leader. He made you feel like he held the secret code to success, and if you just stood close enough to him, you might catch it by osmosis. When I started my journey, Ethan continued, his voice dropping to a humble, intimate register. I had to make hard choices. I had to cut ties with people who did not share the vision, people who were stuck in the scarcity mindset. It was painful, but you cannot fly if you are tethered to the ground. He was talking about me. He was rewriting history in real time, turning his parasitic dependence on my bank account into a heroic tale of shedding dead weight. He finished his speech to enthusiastic applause. He bowed, flashed that $1,000,000 smile, and stepped off the stage to mingle. This was the dangerous part, the mixer. This was where he would corner a wealthy investor, charm them with his buzzwords, and try to secure a check to cover the legal hole he was in. "Target acquired," Arthur said softly. Ethan was making a beeline for a group of older men standing near the bar. I recognized one of them. It was Mr. Sterling, a local angel investor who had made a fortune in textiles. He was known for being generous with seed money but ruthless if crossed. We waited. We let Ethan shake hands. We let him laugh at Mr. Sterling's jokes. We let him pull out his iPad to show his deck. Then, we moved. We approached the circle just as Ethan was swiping through his presentation. "And as you can see here, Mr. Sterling," Ethan was saying, his finger tapping the screen. "Our Q3 projection is based on a proprietary algorithm I developed. We saw a 40% increase in client retention during the beta phase." "That is impressive," Mr. Sterling said, peering at the graph. 40% is unheard of in consulting." "It is all about the ecosystem," Ethan said, beaming. "We built a—" He stopped. He had looked up and seen me standing 3 feet away. For a second, his face went slack. The charm evaporated. Panic flickered in his eyes, raw and ugly. But then, the mask slammed back into place. He laughed, a little too loud. "Isla," he exclaimed, opening his arms as if welcoming an old friend. "Wow, I did not expect to see you here. Did you come to support the launch?" He turned to Mr. Sterling. "Gentlemen, this is Isla, my ex-fiancé. We are still navigating the transition, but it is great to see you trying to learn about the industry. Isla. The condescension was thick enough to choke on. He was trying to frame me as the amateur, the hanger-on. I am not here to learn, Ethan, I said. My voice was cool, conversational. I am here to audit. Ethan's smile faltered. Audit, that is a funny joke. Always the micromanager, right? He tried to turn back to Mr. Sterling, effectively dismissing me. Anyway, sir, as I was saying about the retention rates. Actually, I said, stepping closer, I would love to see that slide again, the one with the retention graph. Ethan pulled the iPad to his chest. This is proprietary data. Isla, confidential. I cannot just show it to the public. It is not confidential, I said, and it is certainly not yours. Mr. Sterling looked between us. He smelled blood. Let her see it, son. If the data is good, it stands up to scrutiny. Ethan hesitated. He was cornered. If he refused, he looked suspicious. If he showed it, he risked exposure. He gambled that I wouldn't make a scene in front of a VIP. He turned the iPad screen toward me. Fine, look, but do not touch. I looked at the graph. It showed a sharp upward curve in blue. It looked professional. It looked convincing. It looked exactly like the graph I had presented to my board of directors at Larkspur Events 2 months ago regarding our wedding season bookings. Arthur, I said, not looking away from the screen, could you hand me the file? Arthur, silent and deadly, handed me a thin folder. I opened it and pulled out a color printout. Mr. Sterling, I said, handing the paper to the investor. Does this look familiar? Mr. Sterling took the paper. He looked at it, then he looked at Ethan's iPad. It is the same chart, Mr. Sterling said. Identical. Not quite identical, I corrected. If you look at the x-axis on Ethan's version, the dates are generic month 1, month 2, on my version, which is from the Larkspur Events annual report. The dates are specifically August through October of last year. Ethan's face was turning a sickly shade of gray. It is a standard growth curve. All curves look similar. Ethan, I said, my voice dropping an octave. You forgot to scrub the metadata. I pointed to the bottom corner of his screen. If you tap the info icon on that image file, I said, it will tell you the author of the original document. Do you want to do it? Or should I? This is ridiculous, Ethan snapped, shutting the iPad cover with a snap. She is stalking me, Mr. Sterling. She is jealous because I left her to pursue this venture. She is trying to sabotage my funding. The file author is Isla Harris, I said, ignoring his outburst. And the proprietary algorithm you are pitching, that is my client list. You exported it from my Salesforce account 3 weeks ago. We have the login logs. Mr. Sterling took a step back. He handed the paper back to me. He looked at Ethan with the expression one might use when stepping in something unpleasant on the sidewalk. Son, Mr. Sterling said, I think we are done here. Wait, sir, Ethan pleaded, reaching out. She is lying. She is manipulating the files, I can prove it. Ethan, a soft voice cut in from the right. We all turned. Standing there was a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 24. She was beautiful, with long blonde hair and wide, innocent eyes. She was wearing a dress that looked expensive, and on her wrist was a Cartier bracelet. I recognized her type immediately. She was me, 10 years ago. Hopeful, eager to please, looking for a partner to build an empire with. She walked up to Ethan and placed a hand on his arm. Ethan, she said, looking confused. Who is this? Ethan looked at her, and I saw the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing his options. Should he use her as a shield? Should he deny knowing her? This is just a distraction. Chloe? Ethan said, sweating now. Just my ex. She's having a hard time letting go. Chloe looked at me. Her eyes were guarded. She had been prepped. She had been told the crazy ex story. You should leave, Chloe said to me, trying to sound brave. Ethan is trying to work. You are harassing him. I looked at her. I felt no anger, only a profound, aching pity. "Chloe," I said softly, "I am not here to fight you. I am here to warn you." "I do not need your warnings," she said, gripping Ethan's arm tighter. "He told me everything about you, about how you controlled him." "Did he?" I asked. "Did he tell you about the $50,000 loan he took out in my name?" Chloe blinked. "What?" "Did he tell you that the car he picked you up in was leased by my company?" I continued. "Did he tell you that the suit he is wearing right now was charged to my American Express?" "Stop it," Ethan shouted. "Chloe, do not listen to her. She is poisoning you." I reached into the folder again. I pulled out a single sheet of paper. It wasn't a legal threat. It wasn't a bank statement. It was a screenshot of a text message thread from Marcus, Ethan's friend. I held it out to Chloe. "I do not want to see it," she said, turning her head away. "Just read the last line." "Chloe," I said, "please, for your own sake." She hesitated. Curiosity is a powerful force. She looked at the paper. The text from Ethan to Marcus read, "Got a new prospect. Chloe, Dad owns a dealership chain. Young, dumb, and full of funds. Gonna ride this one until the Series A hits." Chloe froze. She read it again. She looked up at Ethan. Her hand dropped from his arm as if she had been burned. "Ethan," she whispered, you said you loved my energy." "I do," Ethan stammered. "That text is fake." She photoshopped it. "Chloe, baby, look at me. Would I say that I am the integrity guy?" "You are the young, dumb, and full of funds guy," I corrected. Ethan looked around. Mr. Sterling was watching. The crowd was starting to turn their heads. The murmurs were beginning. His stage was collapsing. He turned on me, his face twisting into a mask of pure hate. "You think you are so smart," he hissed, abandoning the nice guy act entirely. "You think you can just walk in here and humiliate me? I built that deck, I tweaked the numbers. It was my concept." "You stole the data," I said. "I didn't steal it," he shouted, his voice cracking, carrying over the sudden silence of the ballroom. "I only borrowed it. I was going to pay you back once the investment came through. It was a bridge loan. I had a right to it." The room went dead silent. "I only borrowed it," he had said it, out loud, in front of witnesses, in front of an investor, in front of his forensic accountant, Arthur. Standing quietly to my right, adjusted his glasses, he pulled a small notebook from his pocket and made a note. "Thank you, Mr. Vaughn," Arthur said, his voice cutting through the silence. "That admission of unauthorized use of corporate assets has been noted." Ethan stared at Arthur. Then he looked at me. He realized, too late, that he had just confessed. Ethan started, but the words failed him. Chloe took a step back. She looked at me, her eyes filling with tears. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She turned around and walked away, her heels clicking fast on the parquet floor. She didn't look back. Ethan watched his new prospect walk out the door. He looked at Mr. Sterling, who had already turned his back to order another drink. He was alone, in the middle of a crowded room. He was completely isolated. "You bitch," he whispered to me, tears of frustration welling in his eyes. "You ruined everything." I just turned on the lights. "Ethan," I said. "The cockroaches did the rest." I turned to Simone. "Are we done?" Simone looked at Ethan, then at the room. "We have the admission," Simone whispered to me. "We have the witnesses. But look at him. He is not broken yet. He is just angry. He thinks this is just a bad night. He thinks he can spin this." "So," I asked. "So," Simone said, a shark-like smile appearing on her face. "The gala is next week, the one you are organizing, the one where he thinks he can crash and make a final scene to win back public sympathy." "He will try to come," I said. "He is banned, but he will try." "Exactly," Simone said. "Let him come. Tonight was a skirmish, the gala that will be the execution." She looked at Arthur. "Prepare the full dossier. We are going to need the projector." I looked at Ethan one last time. He was frantically typing on his phone, probably trying to text Chloe, probably trying to spin a new web. "Enjoy the networking, Ethan," I said. "I hear the hors d'oeuvres are free." We walked out of the ballroom, leaving him standing in the wreckage of his own pitch. I felt a strange vibration in my chest. It wasn't fear anymore. It was the hum of an engine revving up. I had taken his money. I had taken his reputation. Now, I was going to take his audience. The grand ballroom of the Omni Grove Park Inn was transformed into a landscape of winter frost and diamonds. I stood in the tech booth, high above the floor, looking down at the 300 guests who had paid $500 a plate to attend the Sapphire Charity Gala. This was the biggest contract of the year for Larkspur Events. The mayor of Asheville was at table 4. The CEO of the hospital system was at table 2. There were local news crews set up in the back, their camera lenses gleaming like unblinking eyes. It was a night of absolute perfection, a symphony of logistics I had conducted for 6 months, and I knew, with a certainty that settled deep in my bones, that Ethan Vaughn was going to try to burn it down. He had to. After the humiliation at the networking event on Saturday, after losing Chloe and Mr. Sterling, a rational man would have retreated. He would have packed his bags and left town. But Ethan was not a rational man. He was a narcissist in a death spiral. In his mind, I had stripped him of his dignity, his funding, and his future. He did not want justice. He wanted annihilation. He wanted to prove that I was the villain, and he believed the only way to do that was on a stage as big as the one he thought I had stolen from him. "Status report," I said into my headset. "Perimeter is secure." The head of security, a former military police officer named Davis, replied, "We have eyes on the south entrance. No sign of the target yet." "Remember the protocol. Davis," I said, my voice steady. "If he shows up, do not tackle him in the lobby. Do not make a scene in front of the press wall. If he breaches the outer doors, let him into the antechamber. We contain him there. Or, if he pushes for the ballroom, we let him enter." "Copy that, Isla," Davis said, though I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "You sure you want a live grenade in the room?" "He is not a grenade. Davis," I said, watching the waiters pour the second round of Chardonnay. "He is a dud, but he needs to prove that to everyone else." I checked my phone. It was sitting on the console next to the lighting board. I had spent the afternoon finalizing the kill shot. At 3 o'clock, I had sent a courier to Simone's office. The package contained everything: the forensic handwriting analysis of the forged loan, the IP logs from the networking event proving he stole my data, the recording of him assaulting me in the parking lot, and most damning of all, the affidavit from Mr. Sterling confirming Ethan's admission of borrowing my client list. It was enough to put him away for 5 years, but the law is slow, and Ethan was fast. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I did not have saved, but I recognized the area code. It was Chloe. "Chloe, he is drinking. He has been drinking since noon." He put on his tux. "He says he is going to set the record straight tonight. He says you invited him." I stared at the screen. He was delusional. He had convinced himself that this was another rehearsal dinner, another stage where he could grab the mic and charm the world into hating me. "Chloe, if he does anything tonight, if he makes a scene, I need to know the truth. Isla, he swears you are the one who ruined him. He is so convincing," I typed back slowly. "Isla, he is convincing because he believes his own lies. If you want the truth, come to the ballroom, stand by the north exit, and remember silence is also an answer. Chloe." "I will be there." I put the phone down. 10 minutes later, another message came through. This one was from him, Ethan. "You think you are so smart with your little lawyers and your little charts? You are pathetic. You are playing the victim to get sympathy. Tonight, everyone is going to see the real you. I am coming for what is mine." I did not reply. I did not block him. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to the security channel. "Target is confirmed inbound," I said into the headset. "He is hostile. He is likely intoxicated." "Copy," Davis said. "We are ready. Below me. The gala was moving like a well-oiled machine. The jazz band was playing a soft, instrumental cover of At Last. The mood was elegant, expensive, and safe. I saw Mrs. Galloway laughing at a joke from the hospital's CEO. I saw my team moving invisibly through the shadows, refilling glasses, adjusting centerpieces. I felt a strange sense of detachment. It was the feeling of a chess player who has already seen the checkmate in 5 moves and is just waiting for the opponent to move his pawn. Isla of 3 years ago would have been hyperventilating in the bathroom. Isla of 3 years ago would have been terrified that her perfect event would be ruined. But the Isla standing in the booth tonight realized that the event wasn't the product. The truth was the product. Main program beginning in 5 minutes. The stage manager whispered over the comms. MC is taking position. I looked at the time. 8:45. Davis, I said. Update. We have a visual, Davis said. His voice was tense. Black sedan just pulled up to the valet. Target is exiting the vehicle. He is He is marching right past the valet. Is he armed? Negative on visible weapons, Davis said. He is holding a folder. He looks agitated. He is shouting at the doorman. Let him in, I commanded. Isla. I said let him in, I repeated. If you stop him outside, he becomes a martyr. He screams to the press that I'm locking him out to hide the truth. Let him come into the light. Understood. We are falling back. Doors are unbarred. I watched the monitor that showed the lobby feed. I saw Ethan. He was wearing the same tuxedo he had worn to the rehearsal dinner. It looked slightly loose on him now. He had lost weight in the last week. His hair was disheveled. He brushed past the startled hostess, ignoring her request for a ticket. He looked like a man on a mission from God. He pushed through the double doors of the lobby and entered the long corridor that led to the ballroom. He is in the pipe, Davis said. ETA to ballroom doors. 30 seconds. I turned to the lighting technician, a young guy named Mike who had worked with me for years. Mike, I said calmly, when the doors open, I want you to kill the house lights, drop a single spotlight on the stage, and cut the music. Mike looked at me, confused. Is this part of the show, boss? It is the finale, I said. I looked down at the stage. The master of ceremonies, a local news anchor named Tom, was adjusting the microphone stand. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom's voice boomed through the high-quality speakers. We hope you are enjoying your dinner. Tonight is a night of celebration, a night of community. And to kick off our presentation, we have a special video regarding the impact of your donations. This was it. The video was supposed to play. The room would go dark, but the timing was going to be different. Hold the video, I told the video tech. But the cue, hold it. At the far end of the ballroom, the double mahogany doors slammed open. It wasn't a polite opening, it was a breach. The sound echoed through the cavernous room like a gunshot. Heads turned. 300 people stopped eating their filet mignon and looked toward the entrance. Ethan stood there. He was breathing hard. His tie was crooked. He clutched a manila folder in his hand like a weapon. He scanned the room, his eyes wild, searching for what me validation a miracle. He saw the stage. He saw the microphone. It was like a moth seeing a flame. He didn't see the security guards flanking the walls, blending into the shadows. He didn't see the press cameras turning toward him. Sensing a scoop that was far juicier than a charity check, he started walking. Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan shouted, his voice cracking. He didn't have a mic yet, but he projected with the desperation of a drowning man. I am sorry to interrupt, but there is a fraud in this room. A ripple of gasps went through the crowd. Is that Isla's fiancé? Someone at table 5 whispered loudly. He looks drunk, another voice murmured. Ethan marched down the center aisle. He walked past Mrs. Galloway. He walked past Mr. Sterling, who put his hand over his wineglass as if to protect it from contamination. You have all been lied to, Ethan yelled, pointing a shaking finger at the ceiling, at the booth where he knew I was watching. Isla Harris is not who you think she is. She is a thief. She stole my intellectual property. She sabotaged my business. She cut off my funds to silence me. He reached the stairs to the stage. The MC, Tom, looked up at the booth, terrified. He tapped his earpiece. Isla Security, what do I do? Step back, Tom, I said into the comms. Give him the stage. Tom backed away. Holding his hands up in a gesture of surrender, Ethan vaulted onto the stage. He stumbled slightly, but caught himself on the podium. He grabbed the microphone. The feedback squealed a high-pitched shriek that made everyone cover their ears. Mike, I said. Now. The house lights slammed off. The room plunged into darkness. Then, a single, harsh white spotlight hit Ethan. He blinked, blinded by the glare. He was isolated. He was the center of the universe, just like he always wanted. Isla, he screamed into the microphone, his voice booming through the massive sound system. I know you are up there. You thought you could lock me out. You thought you could hide. He waved the folder. I have the proof, he shouted to the silent, terrified darkness. I have the emails. I have the texts. You used me. You used my connections to build this empire of lies. And when I asked for my fair share, you tried to destroy me. He was panting. He looked out at the invisible audience, trying to find a friendly face. She is the abuser, he pleaded, his voice breaking into a sob. She controlled every penny. She made me beg for money to buy food. Is that love? Is that partnership? She is a monster. From my vantage point, I saw the side door near the exit open slightly. Chloe slipped in. She stood by the wall, illuminated only by the exit sign's red glow. She watched the man on stage, the man who had told her he was a visionary, a victim, a hero. She saw a man screaming at shadows. She saw a man who had crashed a charity gala to attack a woman who wasn't even in the room. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. Why isn't anyone saying anything? He yelled. Do you not care? She is laughing at you. She is laughing at all of us. I leaned forward to the microphone in the control booth. I had a direct line to the main speakers. I could override him. I could cut his mic, but I didn't need to speak. Videotech, I said quietly. Source B, main screen. Source B, the tech asked. The evidence real? Play it. Behind Ethan, the massive projection screen that spanned 30 feet flickered to life. Ethan didn't see it at first. He was too busy squinting into the spotlight. I am going to sue her, Ethan was shouting. I am going to take everything she has. On the screen behind him, a document appeared. It was 10 feet tall. It was the loan application, the one with the forged signature. Next to it, highlighted in red, was the forensic analyst's report, Conclusion Forgery. Source IP, The Grind Cafe. Device Ethan's MacBook. The audience gasped. It wasn't a ripple this time. It was a wave. Ethan heard it. He spun around. He saw the document. He saw his name. He saw the word forgery glowing in high-definition pixels. No, he whispered. The microphone picked it up. No, that is fake. The screen changed. Now it showed the email timestamps, the metadata from the networking event presentation. Author Isla Harris. Created August 12th. Modified by Ethan Vaughn. Stop it, Ethan screamed, turning back to the booth, shielding his eyes. Turn it off. You are violating my rights. The screen changed again. It was a video, grainy, black and white, security footage from the parking lot. It showed Ethan lunging at me. It showed me stepping back. It played the audio, crisp and clear over the speakers. Do you want to lose your business? Do you want to be the woman who sued her fiancé? Make a choice. Do you want me to destroy you? The silence in the ballroom was total. It was the silence of a grave. Ethan stood on the stage, dwarfed by the image of his own violence. The victim narrative didn't just crumble, it evaporated. He wasn't a martyr, he was a bully, and he had just confessed to 300 of the most powerful people in North Carolina. He looked at the screen. He looked at the crowd. He stammered. She provoked me. She made me say that. He looked toward the exit, looking for an escape. He saw Chloe. She was standing right where I told her to. She was looking at him, and even from this distance, I could see the look on her face. It wasn't anger, it was revulsion. She turned and walked out the door. Ethan let out a sound that was half scream, half sob. He dropped the microphone. It hit the stage with a thud that sounded like a gavel coming down. "Davis," I said into the headset. "Now," from the shadows. 4 uniformed police officers stepped into the spotlight. They didn't run. They didn't need to. There was nowhere to go. Ethan saw them. He slumped. His shoulders collapsed. The energy left him, leaving only the empty shell of a man who had spent his life pretending to be full. I watched as they walked up the stairs. I watched as they spoke to him. I watched as he put his hands behind his back. I turned to the sound tech. "Cut the feed," I said, "and bring up the lights." Gently, the spotlight died. The warm, ambient lighting of the ballroom returned. The screen went black. The police were leading Ethan off the stage. He was crying now, loudly, ugly tears that smeared his face. I stood up in the booth. My legs felt steady. My hands were still. I picked up my purse. "Isla," the stage manager asked, looking at me with awe. "What do we do? The gala, the guests." "The show goes on," I said. "Tell Tom to apologize for the technical interruption and introduce the auctioneer. People spend more money when they have had a shot of adrenaline." I walked to the door of the booth. I wasn't going down there. I wasn't going to let him see me. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of a final confrontation. He had chosen the stage. I had just provided the lighting. The grand ballroom was frozen in a tableau of shock. Ethan stood center stage, bathed in the harsh white spotlight I had ordered, gripping the microphone stand as if it were the only thing tethering him to the earth. He was sweating. The facade of the charming entrepreneur had melted away, leaving behind a frantic, cornered man who had run out of exits. He looked out at the 300 guests, the mayor, the CEOs, the socialites, and he tried to play the hit song one last time. "She is pathetic," Ethan shouted, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceilings. "Do you not see what she is doing? She is jealous. She is vindictive. She is trying to ruin my reputation because I outgrew her. She is the one who destroyed my life." He pointed a shaking finger toward the tech booth where I stood behind the tinted glass. "She is hiding up there because she is afraid of the truth." I did not grab a microphone. I did not step out onto the balcony to scream back. I did not engage in a debate. In my world, you do not argue with a toddler having a tantrum. You simply turn on the lights. I looked at the video technician next to me. I nodded once. "Execute," I said softly. The massive projection screen behind Ethan, which moments ago had been black, exploded into light. It was not a slideshow of happy memories. It was a forensic autopsy of a scam. First, the timeline appeared. It was a stark, high-contrast graphic titled "Unauthorized Capital Flow." "What is that?" someone in the front row whispered loud enough for the microphone to catch. The timeline scrolled. It showed the dates. August 15th, $5,000 transferred to Larkspur Logistics shell account. September 1st, $2,000 charged to corporate Amex for consulting fees, vendor Ethan Vaughn. September 20th, $50,000 loan application submitted. Guarantor Isla Harris. Ethan turned around. He saw the numbers. He saw the dates. He saw his secrets projected 20 feet high. That is manipulated," he stammered, backing away from the screen. "Context. You need context." The screen changed. Now, it was a split-screen image. On the left was my actual signature, sharp, angular, precise. On the right was the signature from the loan application looping. Heavy, hesitant. Above them, the text read, "Forensic handwriting analysis, 99%, probability of forgery." Below that, the metadata logs I had harvested from the networking event. File author, Isla Harris, edited by Ethan Vaughn. The room did not gasp this time. They went silent. It was a heavy, suffocating silence. This was not gossip. This was not a he said, she said breakup drama. This was evidence. This was math. And math does not lie. Ethan stood frozen. He looked like a ghost. He opened his mouth to speak, to spin another web, but the screen changed one last time. It was just a black screen with a sound wave bar in the center. My finger hovered over the play button on the console. I pressed it. Ethan's voice, crystal clear and amplified to 90 decibels, filled the ballroom. It was the recording from the networking event, stripped of background noise. I didn't steal it. I only borrowed it. I was going to pay you back once the investment came through. It was a bridge loan. I had a right to it. The audio cut, the echo of, "I had a right to it," hung in the air like smoke. Ethan stood dead still. His hands fell to his sides. He knew. He knew that every person in that room, every potential investor, every social climber, every person he had tried to impress had just heard his confession. I leaned into the booth microphone. My voice came out over the speakers, calm, steady, and omnipresent. "Ethan," I said. He flinched as if I had struck him. He looked up at the booth, shielding his eyes from the spotlight. "You chose public to break me," I said, my voice ringing with the finality of a judge's gavel. "You wanted an audience for my humiliation, so I chose public to end your con." I paused. "There is no more show. Ethan, the curtain is down. Down on the floor. Near the stage left exit. Movement caught the light. It was Chloe, the new prospect, the woman he had planned to bleed dry next. She walked past the security guards. She didn't look at me. She looked straight at the man on stage. She walked up to the event coordinator's check-in table, which was situated near the front for the VIPs. She reached into her purse and pulled out a sleek black credit card. She slapped it onto the table with a sharp crack. "Remove my card from his tab," Chloe said, her voice shaking, but loud enough for the front tables to hear. "And remove my name from his guest list. He does not have authorization to use me anymore." She turned to Ethan. "You are done," she said. That was the signal. From the shadows of the wings, Davis and 3 uniformed police officers stepped onto the stage. They didn't run. They moved with the slow, inevitable momentum of consequences arriving. Ethan saw them. He looked at the crowd, desperate for a savior. "She made it up," he screamed, his voice cracking into a high-pitched squeal. "It is a deepfake. It is AI. She is framing me because she is bitter. Someone help me. Mr. Sterling, tell them. Mr. Sterling," sitting at table 3, picked up his napkin and calmly dabbed his mouth. He did not look up. He turned to the person next to him and continued his conversation. The room turned away. It was the most brutal rejection possible. They didn't boo him. They didn't throw food. They simply decided he was no longer worth their attention. He had ceased to be a person of interest. He was just a disturbance to be removed. The officers reached him. One of them took the microphone from his hand. Another took his arm. "Ethan Vaughn," the officer said, "you are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and identity theft." "No," Ethan shouted as they spun him around. "I am a CEO. You cannot touch me, Isla. Tell them to stop. I am sorry, baby. I am sorry, we can talk." I watched as they clicked the handcuffs onto his wrists. The sound was faint, but in my mind, it was the loudest sound in the world. They marched him off the stage, down the stairs, and toward the side exit. He was still shouting, still blaming, still trying to negotiate with a reality that had finally stopped listening. As the heavy doors swung shut behind him, cutting off his screams, the ballroom fell silent for one heartbeat. Then, the jazz band, professional to the end, struck up a lively tune. I took a deep breath. I looked at my hands. They were steady. I adjusted my headset. "Tom," I said to the MC, who was standing shell-shocked by the stage, "you have 30 seconds to get back out there. Apologize for the interruption. Joke about the unexpected entertainment. Then introduce the auctioneer. We have a fundraising goal to hit." "Copy that. Isla," Tom said, straightening his tie. "You are a machine." I wasn't a machine. I was just done. I spent the next 2 hours calling cues, adjusting lights, and managing the flow of champagne. The gala was a record-breaking success. The guests donated more than ever. perhaps fueled by the adrenaline of the drama, perhaps out of a strange, silent solidarity with the woman who had kept the lights on while her life was burning. When the final guest had left and the cleanup crew began to sweep the confetti from the floor, I packed my bag. I walked out of the tech booth and took the service elevator down to the lobby. The hotel was quiet now. The air smelled of cleaning products and dying flowers. I pushed through the revolving doors and stepped out into the cool night air of Asheville. The valet brought my car around. My car, the one with the lease in my name, the one I paid for. I looked back at the hotel. Somewhere in a holding cell downtown, Ethan was probably still explaining to a tired sergeant how he was a visionary and I was the villain. He would tell that story for the rest of his life. He would find new victims, maybe, or he would rot in his own bitterness. It didn't matter. I took a deep breath. Filling my lungs with the crisp mountain air, I felt lighter, physically lighter. It was as if I had been carrying a heavy, awkward suitcase for 3 years, a suitcase full of someone else's insecurities, debts, and delusions, and I had finally, simply set it down. I got into my car and started the engine. Ethan had called me pathetic. He had tried to brand me with that word to keep me small, to keep me serving him, but as I drove away, leaving the empty stage behind me, I knew the truth. Pathetic was never my name. It was just the label a parasite pastes onto the host to make them forget they have the power to call the exterminator, and I had finally cleared the house. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Isla and her battle for truth. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment down below and let me know where you are tuning in from. I love connecting with listeners from all over the world and hearing your thoughts on how Isla handled her revenge. Don't forget to subscribe to the Maya Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and hit that hype button to help this story reach even more people who might need a reminder of their own strength. See you in the next story.